on the way. But we don't see the players yet.
But we
It
still
might
have
be a
4-5
Magnus-
minutes.
Welcome everyone. We are here for another major event after the candidates, and it is the TePe Sigeman Tournament where we have Arjun Erigaisi fighting it out with Magnus and others. And we have two amazing commentators, a five-time world champion Vishy sir joining us. Sir, it's glad to have you from the start itself. Like we've never done this before.
No, I usually come in, in Cyprus, I was coming in like half an hour late.
Yeah.
So this is quite surprising because usually by the time I come, there's some moves on the board. But here we don't even have the players on the board.
Which is no surprise, sir. I mean, knowing Magnus Sahej, I think him coming late is not definitely not a surprise.
Oh, absolutely. I would expect him to show up, 30 seconds before the match. Oh, there he is. As we said his name, he showed up at the board. And we have handshakes, first moves incoming very, very shortly by both players on the board.
Yeah. It's very interesting. The camera is slightly tilted. Feels like it's a gravitational normally tilting towards the slightly stronger player.
I'm not sure if you saw this, Vishy sir, but in the previous stream, Magnus's camera kept moving because when they were streaming in this event just now, the camera kept moving sideways and then upwards, like by itself. It kept happening throughout the event.
Was it a drone?
That was our guess actually.
It's a working theory. But yeah.
And chat, welcome to the stream. Vishy sir, I mean, you followed the candidates. Now this is another major event. It seems like we have an event every week now. There is simply no break. Yeah, I mean, it's like so many opportunities for Indian players.
Well, it's also a lot of Indian players, which is why they kind of fill all the tournaments. But look, it's nice to, if you want to watch some chess, this best time to be there.
Agreed. And I think Magnus playing is a rare sight, of course. And I see pawn to e3. There's no way, yeah?
No, I think that's the inaugural move being played out here. 1 e3. And question for everyone in the chat. Firstly, welcome chat. And firstly, a question for you. You guys know that let's say in the last 5 classical losses of Magnus, we know that Gukesh was one of them. Can any of you name another Indian in the top 5 losses, most recent losses that Magnus had in this in his past 5 games?
Ooh, that's an interesting detail. And of course, like knowing Magnus doesn't play as often, it might go back.
In 2023, it happened. I'm checking the chat to see if people get it. Tikubai, do you know? I would be very surprised. By the way, we do have liftoff on the board. E4, E5, knight f3 played.
Some random guess. Karthikeyan, I don't know.
It is actually Karthikeyan.
Yes,
wow.
what? In Doha.
Oh, wow. Insane. Wow. That is crazy.
Wow. Okay, chat, I have superpowers I didn't know about. So clearly I'll be flying soon from the commentary. Which is, by the way, Petrov. A very
I think by the third game, Sahil will be the only one commentating.
From the looks of it, Karthikeyan was insane. But yeah, Petrov on the board, sir. An opening that has some let's say reputation for being extremely solid. We saw a lot of games of this in candidates as well. What do you make of Arjun's choice here?
I mean, interesting question to ask Magnus what he has here. I mean, Magnus tends to pot around with some knight c4, knight d3, f4. Or symmetrical lines. He comes back, plays d3 and then d4, and you get completely symmetrical positions. But Petrov is one of the monsters in chess right now, along with this Carlsbad that they play. And Arjun off to a very steady start. Still, it'll be interesting to see whether they're able to do real battle, because in Cyprus, very few people were able to do that.
Agreed. And sir, I always wanted to ask this question. I think you'll be the perfect person to ask this. Like traditionally, Petrov was known as the opening you play when you sometimes want to draw. Is that still the case? Do you think like black players, when they play the Petrov, they're not always like in the mood for a draw? Or they still want like a tough fight on the board? Or do you think still like it's the opening you go for when you want a solid choice?
Probably it's fair to say that the Petrov puts the pressure on white to find a challenging system. But there are lots of lines where the play is incredibly sharp and complex as well. As is the case, there are no sharp openings and safe openings. I think it's a question of do you know the theory or don't you know the theory? In both cases, if you don't know, you can look kind of helpless. I don't know if the Petrov is less or more drawish than many other openings. But it's certainly one of the really solid ones that you can play.
No, on that note, I felt that because it does have that solid reputation, but there were a lot of fighting games happening in the candidates, and I think some games in the past as well. What is there any specific reason? Or is it just how the theory is developing these days?
I think it also has to do with the fact that people have to put pressure, and you can't just. I mean, people feel obliged to put some pressure with white. There were some really weird systems like Esipenko did against Wei Yi, which kind of too provocative. But then Wei Yi also played a complicated line, but he was better prepared, so he was able to pull it off against Esipenko in that duel.
I think you're talking about this
Caruana played a very nice line against
this one, yeah? Knight c4, I think it was.
Yeah, Caruana, no, he played this great system against Blue Bomb.
Against Blue Bomb.
Knight c4 and Knight c3, you're right. With this f4 idea and thing, but even that I'm sure by now has been kind of neutralized. So yeah, here we are.
Very interesting. Magnus saw Petrov. He kind of rubbed his eyes a bit. Okay, I'll have to wake up for this one. Got up, took off his jacket, and then Arjun got up, and now both are calculating. Chat, any predictions for the game? Do let us know. Yeah, Sahej bhai.
Just wanted to ask, it definitely is a surprise for someone like Magnus coming. I mean, if Arjun plays the Petrov, I would be surprised in any case because Arjun is known for, I guess, those sharp, imbalanced variations. But now Petrov could have thrown off Magnus, in the opening itself.
I don't see why. Arjun plays the Petrov very regularly. He plays lots of stuff, but the Petrov is not new to him at all. I mean, I will point out that he played it in the last game against Gukesh in last year's Tata Steel. It crops up regularly. It's one of the openings that he cycles through. He doesn't have a repertoire at rest. Exactly. Let's put it that way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in that variation also, in that game as well, I think Gukesh went for this Knight c4 variation as well.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, white players are kind of struggling to find a decent system, that's for sure. So they play all sorts of borderline risky stuff. Basically, they're saying, I don't want an opening advantage, I just want a new position. I think that seems to be the current logic.
True. And so, Magnus, of course, world number one. Like, how do you expect his performance in the next two events he's playing? We have, of course, this one. Then we have Norway Chess. Will we see him lose a game? I know it's very hard to predict, but just your prediction on how he's going to approach these two tournaments. It's like he's going to work very, very hard on preparation and anything you might have on this.
I don't. I mean, I'll find out when it happens. But these are two classical events that he volunteers to play. Let's put it that way. He doesn't play classical tournaments otherwise, but these two he volunteers to play. So I expect he is ready to do battle. That's all.
Yeah, because now also when it comes to ELO, there is a very big, there's around a 50-point difference between number one and number two. Of course, that's also because Magnus has not played in such a long time. It will be interesting to see whether Magnus maintains that level or, whether the deflation affects him as well. So yeah, that will be very interesting to see.
Yes, and the thing is, he's going to shed a few points with every draw, but he'll find a way to do battle. I mean, it's not like the first year or maybe even the first decade that he's facing this problem. So he knows what it is to outrank his opponent by a lot. Yeah.
And chat is saying, I almost forgot Magnus plays classical. He is back, chat. So you can make your predictions. Magnus Carlsen against Arjun. And of course, playing the black pieces, some pressure on Arjun there. But Magnus right now still thinking, has been thinking for 6 minutes. Still about to make his choice on whether he takes on e5. Where does he want to put the knight? As we discussed, I think we've seen a lot of knight c4 ideas as well. And Arjun is maybe quite confident.
While Magnus is thinking on
Hmm.
move 3, let's take a quick look at some other games as
Yeah.
well. I really want to take a look at, well, there's two games I want to take a look at, but first let's go to Jorden versus Yagiz Kaan Erdogmus. I'm hoping I'm saying the name correctly. I'm gonna have to say it a lot. I'm guessing in the future. This is Catalan opening, and here he has played the move b6. And sir, I believe in this position, this is the mainstream theory. Bishop d7 is what I remember being the main move. Is b6 new? What do you make of this
No, B6
position?
has been played before. What is the line? I think they go knight e5, rook a7, something, rook d1, bishop b7, whatever. But the important thing that you need to know is that Mamedyarov has done this recently, and Mamedyarov is Yagiz Khan's coach.
Hmm.
And so b6 might be that little extra system that Mamedyarov is prepared for, or that they work together. Mamedyarov, whom did he drew against someone quite easily. It involved knight c6, going to a5 and playing something like that. I don't think Erdogmus blundered into this. I think it's very much it's got that Mamedyarov, what do they call it? Stamp of quality, stamp of seal of approval, whatever.
That's very
True.
interesting, sir. But how do we identify the Mamedyarov stamp of approval?
Well, you
is
go
it
through
is it like
Mamadyarov's games, and then you know, and you kind of you can figure out which ones look borderline speculative and which ones might be things he actually believes in. Because Mamed is another player who's excellent at taking away points from people who are reluctant to part with them.
Very interesting.
Nice way to put it. Yeah.
Very nice way to put it.
But it's true that the computer is not impressed with B6 at first sight, but I think at depth it must be quite solid.
I see. Like, at least according to the bar, I'm seeing 95 is the only move in this position, and looks like Yagiz is better prepared. But sir, very recently, I'm sure you know that Yagiz just became 2700 with his matches against Topalov, and now he's the youngest 2700 in the world ever.
Yes. I don't know what to say. I mean, every record is dropping, so I've kind of stopped following. I mean, we have two 20-year-olds playing the World Championship. And it's not even like they're 20-year-olds. They will become 20-year-olds before the match. And I've lost my perspective on what I should care about.
Whether we have 95 and rook a7 very quickly played. So yeah, Yagiz does seem to be in his prep. And now rook d1.
One thing is interesting though here, that he didn't go queen takes d4 instead of rook a7. That could have been an option. It's maybe slightly dodgy exchange sack. Maybe it only worked with surprise value, but I have seen people try that. So just to note that it was possible, and I have seen that played before. So also this line didn't begin with Mamedyarov, I must add.
I see. And also, just so Vishu sir saying that he has seen this before, chat, there is just one game. That's how detailed you must be to be to be good at chess. But yeah, just one game was played in that position. But yes, queen takes d4, what a nice idea. But he goes for rook a7, and now we have two moves here for white. There's rook d1, which defends the pawn on d4, and then there is queen takes c4 as well.
Maybe after queen takes c4, the idea is just to play knight d5. Then I can play bishop b7, maybe trot to b4 with the knight, something like that.
Eventually c5, yeah?
I mean, instead of playing bishop b7 right away, to start with knight d5 could be a thing. But I guess people who have looked at the Catalan a lot have figured out a way to get some small edge here, because this line is less popular than you would imagine if it worked so cleanly. So I think this is one of these surprise line things.
Yeah, only a 10-minute difference, by the way, between the players. And by the way, we do have a choice from Magnus. If you want to quickly go back before you go to the second game, Sahej, you wanted to check. Knight takes c5 played after a 10-minute think. And now Arjun, of course, quickly pulls out the d pawn to d6. And now Magnus is again thinking. So we can expect the knight maybe to not to go back to f3.
Exactly. I was just gonna say.
Okay, so let's have a quick poll. Knight
Yes.
f3, knight d3,
Yes.
knight c4. And
I'm going to set up a poll, sir, actually.
I'll be very impressed by knight f7, but I would consider Arjun favorite under those circumstances after knight f7. So I think knight d3 or knight c4, I don't know.
Knight f3, knight c, knight d3, 3 options. Okay. Poll is up, chat. Let's go.
You know, I
Magnus.
was about to say before I got cut off here that every time I have looked at Petrov in the past, let's say 1.5 years, players play knight takes c5 and they take like 4 or 5 minutes to think, and then they think for another 10 minutes and then end up playing knight c4 only. You know, it's like they're
Yeah.
deciding, should we do it or should we not do it? And then everyone just ends up doing it and then they get in a worse position somehow.
Yeah. That's true.
Magnus, looks like
But then
he's,
again, Magnus could have probably anticipated this by when he played e4. So I don't think he's falling off his chair exactly.
okay, no moves just yet. Maybe we can check out the second game, Sahej, you wanted to check while Magnus thinks.
Yeah, so the other game I wanted to take a look at was Zhu Jiner versus Nodirbek, and we have a Kaan in front of us, the main line from the white side, and I see this interesting move which Nodirbek has just played, which is basically in this position he's black goes h6, and h6 you play to go bishop h7. But here, after castle a5, white goes a4, and then black plays bishop to g6 instead. And which I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. Is bishop g6 still looking like prep, or this is something that Nodirbek understands really well and is just just moving around with the move orders, or what do you make of this?
My instant reaction is, why doesn't someone play knight h4? But I guess, I mean, if you play bishop h7, white would never play knight h4. The other thing is, on top of bishop h7, g5 is a popular move. So it's interesting that I thought that was what Nodirbek was gunning for. But it could be a quiet move, some detail where he says, if my opponent isn't fully aware of all the subtleties here, I either equalize easily and maybe I can press for more. Because we must remember that Nodirbek is trying to really, I mean, people will target Jiner here. And that's something that will take a lot of different approaches.
Yep. And Nodirbek, by the way, is rated 2780, just 4 points ahead of Sindarov now. Both, I think, would love to also maybe touch that 2800 mark at some point very soon. So it will be very interesting to see how these guys play. By the way, Sajma, I think the board just kind of expanded a bit for a second there, but now it's back.
Is it fine now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we are at bishop g6, and any other updates you see on any other boards?
I think we have a Catalan kind of position, I think, in a couple of games, but
yeah, the Andy Woodward versus Nils Grandelius. Let's take a look at that as well, because it started off with a QGD and then Grandelius plays h6, something new. I think we saw it in the candidates as well. And now it turns into Catalan, bishop e7, bishop g2, and short castle. I think this game is progressing quite slowly. Which is so.
Yes, instead of d takes c4 is essentially he just played h6 and but it's been played. Gokesh has done it a lot. I think Nakamura has played it a bit. I'm sure it's even more popular than these two. So one thing is that if white castles and you go d takes c4, I think Hikaru tried to show that this was possible in the candidates.
Yeah.
But the question is, can white play something like queen d3 here?
I think so. It was a game of Sindarov and Hikaru as well. And then Hikaru apparently also played this variation against Prague in the candidates too.
Right. That's the game, I remember.
And by the way, sir, in chat, poll-wise, 45% people said the knight Magnus's knight will go to f3. 42% said the knight will go to c4, and 11% said the knight will go to d3. And guess where Magnus put the knight? On d3.
Another thing, I think it's interesting that now knight f3 is almost a surprise move, whereas until I don't remember quite recently, I didn't realize the other moves were even legal. I mean, I kind of knew they're legal, but I could never look at them properly. But now it's the only move we look at. So.
And now he's playing quickly. So knight f4 played. Knight, of course, coming to d5. I think here we have knight c6 also possible, right? Some knight d5, knight d4, something like some funny moves, I think.
Sahaj, you and me are so out of Jordan.
Yeah, we're just, yeah.
I mean, if Sahil knows this knight c6, knight d5, knight d4 line, you and me are out, brother.
I'm genuine. He has been improving a lot when it comes to his tactics and when it comes to and he's also remembering things from, in the past. He mentioned some game of yours in one of our previous streams. And he could remember the year, which game it was. It was crazy to me that how much he's been improving. He's definitely doing some work, that's for sure.
So I'm half crying from that compliment. Thanks a lot. But I think it's just the company I've had over the last 2 years with, you, Sahaj, Tanya, Sagar, all these guys who are stronger than me. I can tell you it's the best coaching experience that I've gotten for the last 2 years. That's the only reason. I kind of remember some stuff.
I'm just very, very curious to ask him if he
Maybe
has
we can
seen
show
this
that line
position.
actually. Knight f4.
Yeah.
Knight c6. I think it happens from knight e3 actually, doesn't it? It comes from knight e3.
You mean the force
knight
draw?
c4, knight e4, queen e2, queen e7, knight e3, knight c6 is how it happens. So here it might be funny for it to happen.
Knight c6, knight d5, knight d4. Yeah, this is how it happens.
This was the point. This was also Carlsen Caruana, maybe?
Yes, it was Carlsen at last round, no? No, sorry, this was the not the last round. It was not the last round.
In the match sometime, but anyway.
In the match sometime, yeah. But he went knight f6 Arjun here. And
yeah, that makes sense. Just go back and solid.
Exactly. And by the way, if white goes d4, I mean, surely the queens are going to get traded off the board. But if white plays d4, Tikobai, have you looked at this before? If you've done some deep analysis on this position, could you explain to us why is g5 the best move?
I wish I knew why g5 was the best move, but I mean, d4 does look logical. I mean, you put the pawn in the center, but what is g5 though? So I mean, to me, it looks ridiculous.
Yes, but I'm sure in a couple of months we'll be surprised if people don't play g5 in this position. I mean, that's how it goes with it.
Wow. So, but there are some games actually played out here. There's also a Magnus Nepo match from 2021 in this position as well.
I think it's from their Blitz match, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I was checking the games on chess.com. So around 70, 80 games, and only 3 games g5 was played. So it's not something which is, we've seen many, many times happen. So let's see if, but Arjun will know this. Yeah, I mean, Arjun is very well prepared in the he plays knight c3 though.
C6 makes sense, but I feel like these knights are just better placed. Should I be going knight c6 here, sir, as well? But I'm just a bit afraid of knight d5.
It's like, let me.
Yeah, it does look like it's a.
I mean, I prefer c6 to be honest, but neither of them looks like the end of the world.
True.
Yes, for sure. And by the way, we do have a super chat.
I suspect though that knight c6 is more precise in fractions of a centipawns.
For sure. And by the way, sir, we do have a super chat. By the way, thank you so much for the super chat. The super chat is tough question for Vishy, sir. What do you think is the reason for Arjun's heavily fluctuating rating, considering his level of play and quality of moves? Was his 2800 bit premature? Huge fan, by the way.
Thank you. I think his style is quite demanding, and because he's playing often quite provocatively. In Tata Steel, he started with a win against Prague, and it looked like it might be a good tournament for him, but then it kind of his train went off the tracks, and it worked out quite difficult, and that's the reason he moved back quite a lot. He then clawed back some points in Bundesliga, but his I think his style is accounting for most of the explanation for the swings.
Yeah, that makes
I
a lot
see.
of
And
sense, I think.
how
sorry,
does
please go ahead.
one adapt to be more consistent at the highest level? How do you adapt your style? Do you change your style? What do you do?
It depends how comfortable you are in your skin. I mean, if I would have always said, well, the style is going to lead to a lot of fluctuations, but it's Arjun's best hope in the long run because this is who he is. Um, but perhaps it can be moderated and fine-tuned, all and refined, and all those sweet words. So you can do something like that. Try to keep the chaos and the fighting, but more controlled openings, slightly more solid openings. I mean, people like Hikaru and Magnus also get a lot of interesting positions, but without the same level of risk. But maybe Arjun's Petrov is already a sign that he's moderating, so we'll see.
True, true. And I think is queen takes queen an option? Just if I really want to just stand down and completely neutralize any chances, like just exchange queens, play c6, like looks like a very
Yes, but it could be better for white if you play d4 and then Magnus might do something like f3, g4, h4 and keep that thing, and then that knight on f4 is. And the second thing is black might have some difficulty developing his pieces. White has this plan. If you go c6, d4, queen e2, bishop e2, something, I can follow up with f3, bishop d3, g4, king f2, knight ce2. I mean, I don't know if you can put those on the board, but that's kind of a plan for white, which is reasonable. I'm sure black can hold, but at least white knows what he's doing.
Yep. And so I think this is the main reason I think I remember a few games now, because for example, the plan you mentioned, f3, g4, h5, I would never consider this. Now I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life. So chat, once let's have Vishy OP, because I don't think I would ever look at this opening in depth and understand this plan. So it's going to stay with you for the rest of my life. So, and next time maybe I can, after a year, I can kind of look cool in front of somebody else when I say, yeah, we can play f3, g3, h3. Very easy.
Sahaj and me were just waiting for you to give us the full line, but anyway.
So no, I was waiting for Sahil. It's exactly like I feel like this is already in his.
And Sahaj got stuck. So thank God for
Now
bad internet.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Shall we see what's happening in Jiner? Okay, Jiner is still thinking. Arjun has made a move, so he's actually gone c6. So there we go. Well, perhaps he has some line he knows of. I mean, one plan for him could be to switch his knight if d4, d5, and then the line I mentioned, while white is doing all this f3, g4, black can play knight e8, knight d6, and then white's plan on the king side is looking kind of strange. I mean, he might have some specific solution.
Arjun did take like 5 minutes to play c6, and now Magnus quickly plays pawn to d4. And now it's a choice for Arjun. Does he want to go d5? Does he want to trade queens? Does he want to go something else?
So, just kind of a interesting question that I saw in the chat earlier as well, and I was wondering myself too. Like players like Magnus, I mean, we kind of understand that why he's playing these types of openings, because he feels comfortable going into the end game and trying to grind out a win, because that's, I mean, we've seen him do this many times before. And I feel like for a lot of players, for example, for Arjun, like you mentioned, he is very aggressive. He likes the imbalances and all of that. What would you say is that skill for Nodirbek and Sendarov? What separates them in this sense? What is their special skill?
Both of them are very similar style. I think on average, um, but based heavily on his rapid events, um, that Sindarov lives on the edge slightly more. But to be honest, both of them have this very aggressive style, which is maybe quite typical of the young Uzbeks. So maybe they all play like this. Their styles remind me a lot about each other. I mean, when I see Sindarov's games, I think of Nodirbek and vice versa. They're not that far apart, actually.
True.
So I think Sendarov and Nodirbek kind of remind you of the young Vishy in this sense. Wow.
I don't know if they remind
That's
me of.
crazy. Wow. Wow, that's insane.
I don't know what to
I think
say, but anyway.
that's going to be an amazing Olympiad clash. And of course, we also have that Uzbekistan versus USA match. That's also going to be very interesting at some point to see how that goes. So a lot of amazing matches to look forward to. And by the way, Queen takes E2 played by Arjun. So he's trading queens now. Finally, Magnus is thinking whether he wants to take with the knight or the bishop.
Oh, by the way, here Vishy sir's plan is now working the best, which he sort of envisioned such a long time ago when I was making the arrows. Because in this position, 4 recaptures are possible, right? And I would argue that it's the recapture that looks the second most ridiculous in this position, which is the best, which is knight ce2. But exactly like Vishy sir said, we want to go f3, king f2, g4, c3, just like how we mentioned the entire sequence of moves. That's exactly what's going to happen on the board now.
Yes, I agree. Think about it this way. I'll add one point. If I go bishop e2 and I can play bishop d3 next, okay, so picture that. But if I take knight ce2, put the knight on g3 and go directly to d3, I've gained a move with the knight relative to the other setup. So it's a faster way of getting that. I would give an award to any player who played king takes e2 here. So I think really we have 3 moves. And knight fe2 is also ridiculous because after bishop f5, you have to move the king to defend that pawn. So there's only 2 moves. It's only knight ce2 and bishop e2.
Sir, this might actually be surprising, but king takes e2 is like the 3rd best move. Knight f takes e2 is even worse than king e2. which is unbelievable to believe, but yeah. Okay, maybe because you're losing the pawn by force, yeah?
Well, I don't see how that is because after bishop f5, I go king d2, and for the moment, I'm hanging in there for dear life, but hardly. I mean, we have accomplished so much. We have lost the right to castle. We have
blocked the bishop.
We blocked the bishop. We've gone back in development. It's quite a lot for 2 moves in this position. So
big effort.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, I think Magnus is still thinking though. I'm not sure if he's gunning for the medal there, so I think maybe knight e2 he might go for.
No, I don't think he's going knight fe2, but knight ce2 he might be thinking about knight ce2.
Yeah.
Yeah, or bishop. Actually, after bishop e2, the problem is black can maybe go bishop f5, and then maybe you're forced to go bishop d3 and trade off the bishop. But yeah. Oh, look at this. Erdogmus is still so much ahead in opening. This is the current position. After rook a7 is where we left it. Rook d1, bishop b7 happens. So still preparation for Erdogmus. e4, knight c6, takes. And now white plays knight c3. And then this is the first time he thinks for 5 minutes and plays bishop to a8.
Yes. Modern chess.
So optically, it does look like present for white. Like I think it looks like a position where I have the center. At some point, I possibly just pick up c4, and maybe black could suffer with the rook or a7. Or do you think like it's okay for black?
Well, I think black is going to try to play c5 pretty fast. So, and but bishop a8 is kind of impressive, I have to admit.
Yes, OTB chess.
And I think the longer we run the engines, I think stronger bishop a8 becomes. So it might just be prep actually.
Yes, I kind of think it is.
We also have a few moves, I think, in the Zhu Jiner Nodirbek game. So we can check that out maybe.
Oh, by the way, look at this, guys. He has just played bishop takes. Just wanted to take a look at the game very quickly. Bishop e2 was played. Remember, we were talking about bishop f5 and bishop d3. So that could actually happen in the Magnus board.
Interesting.
And shall we go to Zhu Jiner versus Nodirbek?
Sure.
And there it is. This is the So, with this Caro-Kann positions, I've, every time I've tried to analyze them, white is always so much better on the, like, optically as white. And then after, some 10, 15 moves, you play some game and then you're always worse. Is there some
sounds about right. Yeah. Sounds about right.
I don't understand how or why, but why only Caro-Kann is like this?
No, everything is like this, I think. No?
I agree.
But yes, but Caro-Kann, I feel like the amount of games I have lost is just way too many. I remember I was playing against a grandmaster from India. His name is L.R. Srihari. He just became a grandmaster. And I was playing as white, and it was the last round, some norm event. None of us were playing for the norm. I asked him a draw on like move 10 or something. It was morning round, nothing to play. And the guy refused and plays e4, c6. And immediately, some sirens went in my head. Okay, something could go wrong, something could go wrong. And then in 20 moves, I was just dead lost. So I feel like there is some nuance here that we're missing. Maybe you could enlighten us, sir. What's the secret of Caro-Kann?
This position is very rich, but it's even richer with the pawn on g5 because then there's fundamental weaknesses on the king side, as well as a chance for black to attack with g4 and h5. It reminds me of this h6 g5 system in the Italian, which also has this double-edged side to it. But here it's very subtle. I mean, white is playing for... First, white can probe that a5 pawn, maybe queen e1 or something. If provoke b6, and after that play c4, and then you're looking at the b5 square. So cd, and put the bishop on b5, put pressure on c6, all these things. I would think this is quite favorable for white. But I think Nodirbek is looking for a struggle, and he's willing to be slightly worse to achieve it. And so that's where we are.
Also, on the Caro-Kann points, maybe because it's the opening which Levy popularized so much that all the youngsters kind of grew up learning this opening. So maybe that's also one of the reasons. I don't know. It's something people love playing.
Yes, but at high, when you analyze a lot, every opening turns out to be very rich with lots and lots of details. So it is quite tiring to study so much.
True. And I think, okay, we have bishop b4, by the way, the last move played by Nodirbek. Just c3, kicking the bishop back, maybe?
If you play c3, then it would be impossible to target that a5 pawn like Vishy sir said. And I don't know, this is exactly the type of position where if you don't know what you're doing, you can get in like very simple trouble. The other option is that you played queen e1. This is the move you were suggesting, Vishy sir, correct?
Yes, it's one idea. Just asking black what you're going to do about. But then the question is, why did rook c1 happen? I mean, I can play queen e1 first and then play rook c1 or something. So the devil is in the details. I mean, you need to study all this. Also, it depends. Has all this been played before or not? Even once. Sahil, can you remember some games in this position?
So I'll have to take the help of my friend Opening Explorer here, unfortunately, this time.
Please do, please do.
But there was one game, and Bishop E7 was played in that game that black won, among master games at least. So Bishop B4 does seem to be something which has not been played before.
Okay. But Bishop B4, I wonder why it doesn't take Bishop takes B4, A takes B4, A5 seriously. Maybe B6 is fine for black. Because it's very hard for white to get something up to C5, right?
True. In fact, one of the moves the ancient recommends is just Bishop F4, just completely ignoring the bishop on B4. But C3 is so tempting sometimes to just push that bishop back.
Yep. So this is the current position. He's still thinking. She's still thinking.
By the way, Magnus did play Bishop D3. So he's offered the exchange of bishops. And now it's Arjun's move. And he does take.
And now I'm guessing knight takes incoming. Yep, there it is.
Played.
So I'm guessing this is the type of position, Vishy sir, where Magnus is extremely dangerous, and this may not be Arjun's, let's say, most comfortable position, even though the bar is showing 0-0-0. Would that be an accurate statement?
I mean, I would have to say it looks pretty equal. It's very impressive if someone can keep squeezing out of this position, but I have to say this one just looks equal. So
this is not one of those positions where Magnus just squeezes out something.
He might. I mean, it might turn out that even here, white has a plan. I think white players are happy in the Petrov if they just have a plan. At least it gives them something to do instead of sitting and thinking what to do next. And maybe that itself is a bit comfortable, but it's hard to see. I think Arjun would be very disappointed if he lost this.
Yeah, true. Agreed. And,
because this looks like just 0.00.
It is actually 0.0. So exactly. So I think Arjun should be quite happy with the opening. He's only 20 minutes ahead. And with the bishop's trade off, doesn't seem to have a clear weakness. And of course, Magnus will push his level best, but seems like we could hold this one to a draw comfortably.
Yeah. Wow. It's not absolutely lifeless, but it does feel that if you can play accurately, then there's no real danger here. I find that hard to believe, but anyway.
And so I think apart from this tournament, we also have the Grand Chess Tour coming up, and we're going to have Gukesh and Sundarov in the same event. So, I mean, the tension is going to be high for that clash because 3 games, rapid blitz, like how are both players going to approach that one? Because it's going to be very interesting to watch. Their first clash when we know, okay, they're going to play the match at the end.
Yes, it'll be it'll be fun. They have couple of encounters planned this year, and potentially there's an Olympiad meeting as well. Though it's not clear who will play top board for those Uzbeks, but it might be resolved for Sindarov. Same here. I mean, maybe Arjun will take top board, so still some board order doubts. But look, there'll be a lot of excitement, but hopefully they live up to it as well.
So just asking for you, if you were, let's say, making the decision on who to put a board 1 in the Uzbek chess team, would you put Sindarov or would you put Nodirbek? Sorry, I'm so sorry for this question.
Yeah,
but I have no idea. Sir, and sorry.
I think it'll involve talking to the players as well and so on.
Okay.
You might find out if one of them is willing to drop and thing. I mean, teams that trust each other can take these decisions quite freely, like the Indian team did last time. Famously, Arjun dropped, and
Gukesh was board 1 and
Prag
Prag
and
was board 2.
Gukesh took the top 2 boards. You can take 1 or 2 bold decisions like that, and as long as the teammates, there's a high level of trust, anything works, because they can play any board if they want. So.
Yeah, that's going to be amazing to watch as well. The Olympiads, so many strong teams, and Arjun, I think, did very well at board 3. Actually, basically destroyed everybody. Even that Scandinavian he played. So at the end, it turned out pretty well for India.
Yep, Arjun taking his long think. Maybe let's okay. Also, Zhu Jiner has been thinking after that bishop b4 as well. Some updates on the Jorden board against Yagiz. Maybe let's take a quick look there. What's happening? I believe bishop a8 was the last move we looked at, and now he plays bishop to e3. This is the current position.
Yeah.
Maybe the idea is to stop c5. Looks a bit uncomfortable here, sir, for Yagiz. Would that be accurate, or do you think it is, well, as you say, modern chess?
There are some funny plans. I mean, one is c6, because if I can play rook d7, I'm threatening b5. But the problem for that is a5, and then that bishop rook battery kicks in. But let's just fool around a little bit and see how it goes. So c6.
Okay.
I'm guessing you play a5. Oh, you could simply go queen e2 because the pin on the rook is still there. So this doesn't work. Sorry.
I just want to point out something for everyone. I'm using an i9 like 32 gig RAM laptop, and c6 was not even in my top 3, and c6 became the best move the moment Vishisar played it, by the way. Just wanted to mention that. But yeah, and by the way, this puts
the
only
engines know who's boss. The engine knows who's boss.
Exactly. Let's go. And by the way, after c6, we are by the way in just an only move territory for white if he wants to have anything, which is queen e2. I'm not so sure if this is such an easy move to play, because after a5, there is this crazy resource for black, which is knight g4.
That's nice. I was thinking that even b5 wasn't the end of the world either way, because
It's also fine.
if you go d5, I go rook d7, and I was wondering how good or bad that was. Maybe I take on e6 and bishop h3, but it didn't seem like over. However, c6 queen e2, as I pointed out, and there's still that pin on the a file, so
Yeah,
would be a bit weird if it worked.
Definitely promises an exciting position, because black can go now king h8, bishop takes, and now something like rook d3, and we are in a very complicated position, I would say. Not sure who is better.
Yeah. Something has happened in Nodirbek's game against Jiner.
Yep, this is it. In this position, she did play queen e1, your move, and now bishop takes d2, queen takes d2, and basically shows that Nodirbek has equalized. So is it safe to say that exchanging the bishops was a good decision for Nodirbek? So
let me just pull up the board and refresh my. I think on balance, yes, it's the so-called good bishop, but black's bishop on g6 is not a bad one. On the other hand, black's pieces are not tripping on each other. Here's the advantage for black. There are not 3 pieces fighting for the e7 square. The knight can go there comfortably. And in that kind of way, it might be a good trade. I think it's quite a reasonable trade for black.
Yeah, and I just realized, sir, that before you were mentioning the possibility of, provoking black to play b6, and now it makes so much sense to me that because there is no bishop on the board present, black doesn't have to play b6 and not weaken the subsequent square on c6 and so on and so on. Could that
Totally. In
be
fact, now I can play queen b6 or knight b6 somewhere with knight c4 and so on. So
brilliant?
True. Vishisa, we know you have to leave, but just one prediction of the crazy game between Magnus and Arjun. If you had to make one final prediction for that game, what would that be?
well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it'll be a draw, but I know that Arjun and Magnus can still get exciting in this thing. I mean, but I'm still going to say it's going to be a draw. Stop the press. Stop the press. But anyway.
Stop the count. Let's go.
Thanks a lot, sir, for joining. It was an honor to have you on podcast, and we'll see you very, very soon, sir. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. See you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. So, chat, that was Vishy sir joining us for day one of this important event. And of course, Sahej bhai, I think it's also day one for us. I think, crazy है कि भाई मैग्नस को क्लासिकल खेलते हुए देख रहे हैं सहज भाई. टू मी दैट इटसेल्फ इज सच अ यूनिक थिंग. लाइक लास्ट टाइम कब देखा था हमने मैग्नस को खेलते हुए क्लासिकल?
By Norway chess is what I can remember. Before that, not really. Yeah, not really. I feel like Magnus को हाँ Norway chess में ही देखा है ना भाई. उसके अलावा तो कोई देखा ही नहीं है मैं. If you think about it.
So
I was like, while Vishy sir was joining the call, like, when we were starting for the stream, I was pulling up all of the classical games of Magnus, and you really have to go back like a couple of years to find like good events of Magnus. Yeah, that's why that game. Bhai, I'm so impressed, Tiko bhai, that you remembered the game of Karthikeyan defeating Magnus Carlsen in a classical match. What a pull that was from you.
Bhai. Thank you, bhai. I think ये वो था ना वो, have you seen Slumdog Millionaire? Like he somehow remembers the correct answers because
you knew के answer Aramis ही था. You knew. Deep inside you knew Aramis. Why? Just because.
But by the way, King D7. So we are seeing the plan, exactly the same plan that Vishisa mentioned. After knight takes D3, knight A6 खेला अर्जुन ने, and then pawn to F3. As Vishis predicted, कि कोई F3, King F2, G4 खेलना है. King D7 by Arjun, and look at this, King F2 already on the board. So Magnus getting up for the same plan, Sahaj bhai, G4, H4 incoming, and of course Rook coming to E1. Looking like Magnus is still playing this game. He's not, like, okay, koi draw nahi hai bhai. Hello.
I mean, I think in this sense, like, I do understand Vishis's perspective that this position is very, very drawish and very symmetrical, but I've seen Magnus do this so many times that, and I'm sure Vishis has seen Magnus do this so many times as well, that we know that if there is one player in the world who can press in a position like this, that person is sitting in front of you. This is exactly where you think there is no danger. That's exactly when there is the most danger. So it's going to be, I think, a long game, but he's relatively quite safe, but he just has to be very alert all the time. हल्का सा आपने प्रेशर का मौका दिया तो मैग्नस फिर छोड़ेगा नहीं.
I saw this. I don't know if we shot that piece of content, Vishi sir, या फिर कहीं और मैंने किसी और podcast पे देखा था. Basically, Vishi said कि Magnus kind of the new thing he brought to chess was basically he would play these drawn endgames, which people would not even consider pushing in. So he's the one who brought this, new concept of playing these endgames, squeezing like little things in these endgames and trying to put pressure. And he was the first one who did it in sort of such a large and effective scale. And that's why he's the best. And he said it himself, by the Magnus, on some Chess 24 stream once. He said, oh, मेरे से endgame खेल रहा है. Doesn't he know I'm the greatest endgame player of all time? Like, he understands it, He's very good at endgames. So I think even though it looks equal, it feels equal, but it's not equal until I see a handshake.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think he's the most dangerous player when it comes to these types of situations. So hoping the best for Arjun. And also, let's not forget, Tikuba, I'm sure you will remember, but Chad, last time when Magnus played against Arjun with the white pieces, it wasn't the last time, but it was last year in this World Rapid where he had that crazy, end game, which was that the end game, FNH pawns wali end game, I'm sure I've talked about enough. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people will remember. But chat, think about that game. Just that game itself, not just the end game. Think about how that FNH pawns actually happened. Magnus was pressing for what felt like an eternity in a rapid
Yeah.
game. ये क्लासिकल है. रैपिड में अगर वो आपको इतना लंबा खिलवा सकता है, इमेजिन वो क्लासिकल में क्या कर सकता है. सो दिस इज द ओनली रिस्क आई फील
भाई,
फॉर अर्जुन.
that game must have given Arjun such a confidence boost. Like he will remember it for the next 10 years. Like he's gonna fall back to that memory of drawing against Magnus and never give up in worse positions. What a flex Sahaj bhai yaar. FNH pawns is so difficult. Rapid में hold करना, I mean, was an insane accomplishment. And I think
I not even that. I know Magnus was ekdam pura ekdam. Magnus had enough time and he tried every single trick in the book. And I'm telling you, I've seen Magnus defeat Vidit, for example, in Rook Knight versus
yeah,
Rook.
yeah.
Like we have seen that happen, yeah. So you can imagine FNH pawns definitely has a higher probability of winning than Rook Knight versus Rook, simply because Rook Knight versus Rook is like, okay, it is just a few setups. FNH pawns, there are many things you can transpose into some type of an end game. But doing that, I think, is like ridiculously impressive.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Carlsen is like, that was round one because Magnus tried to win in the most Magnus way, and Arjun said not today. And I think today, Magnus is saying, "Bhai, it's round two. Let's go."
Bhai, I'm glad you mentioned Vidit. मुझे याद है the first time Vidit defeated Magnus, like Magnus missed mate in 3 or something. And then Vidit played like a beautiful game to come back and defeat Magnus in the end game itself. Like there was an attack, of course, and then he kind of neutralized in the end game and played so well. And then he did this fist pump, like वो crazy expressions. Like Magnus को हराना किसी के लिए, it's such a big deal. So I think एक याद है टाइटल ट्यूसडे में एक आई थिंक 10 साल के बच्चे ने ड्रॉ किया था. आई फॉरगॉट हिज नेम.
I remember,
Arit
bhai. I
Arit
remember. It
Kapil
was
था, I don't know who it
Arit
was.
Kapil.
हाँ,
Arit Kapil.
like it was
I spoke to
news.
him, bhai. He was because he's. I mean, I know him pretty well.
हाँ, it
He's
was
from Delhi
news,
also,
like
no?
national news. Yeah, that's how strong
Hmm.
Magnus is. So अर्जुन के सामने एक tough task तो है. But I want to ask you a question, Sahaj bhai. Maybe it's like the अंदर का optimist in me, the glass half full kind of guy. अगर 100% में से हम डिवाइड करें, अर्जुन के जीतने के कितने % चांसेस हैं यहाँ पे?
Magnus क्या फिर अर्जुन की? Sorry, my internet just broke for a bit.
अर्जुन के.
Okay, let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be थोड़ा आराम से, मतलब okay, like I mean,
नहीं, अगर डिवाइड करना ही हो मजबूरन कि भाई विन इतना, ड्रॉ इतना, लूज इतना, मैग्नस के लिए, अर्जुन के लिए, तो कितना % रहेगा अर्जुन का?
मैं
1% तो
बोलूंगा कि
देंगे.
जो डिवाइड कर रहे हैं वो रख लो आप, नहीं चाहिए मुझे वो तो डोंट डू इट. यहाँ पे ब्लैक नहीं जीतने वाला भाई. एंड ऑल्सो लाइक अगर मैग्नस ना खेल रहा, आई मीन ओके, रियलिस्टिकली अगर वाइट से कोई भी प्लेयर खेल रहा होता है, यहाँ पे ब्लैक से कोई भी प्लेयर खेल रहा होता है, यू वुड स्टिल से वाइट के जीतने के चांसेस बहुत कम है. बट जस्ट बिकॉज मैग्नस खेल रहा है वो बहुत कम से थोड़े से ज्यादा है, बट स्टिल बहुत कम है. बट ब्लैक से कोई भी खेल रहा हो, दिस इज इम्पॉसिबल टू विन. आई मीन आई एम श्योर टिकू भाई, मे बी नॉट स्टॉकफिश, बट आई एम श्योर लाइक इन अ पोजिशन लाइक दिस यू शुड बी एबल टू ड्रॉ अगेंस्ट मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द प्लेयर्स इफ यू वांटेड टू.
होपफुली मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द प्लेयर्स की रेटिंग 2400 से कम है, वरना मुश्किल है. बट ओके, आई थिंक if I was playing this as white and Magnus was black, I would know 100% I'm losing this, like 100 or 100 games. So
Okay,
I'm
but that's
kind of
different.
still,
Magnus है ना वो, Magnus को नहीं बोलूंगा मैं, but like
हाँ,
somebody like a top 10 का player, I think
I
it's
won't lose, bhai.
relatively quite easy.
You have no idea about my capabilities, Sahaj bhai. Underestimate कर रहे हो आप. I can totally lose. But I think
I'll tell you why, especially at this level, I'll tell you why. Because अगर आपकी कभी कोई पोजीशन खराब आती है ना, let's say, तो you can immediately transpose into a known theoretical drawn end game. जो आपको जैसे FNH पॉइंट्स टाइप की पोजीशन हो गई, राइट? आपने पढ़ा हुआ है उसके बारे में पहले. अब पोजीशन तरह से भी खराब होती है आपकी, तो आप इमीडिएटली उस पर ट्रांसपोज कर सकते हो कि ठीक है, ये पॉन ले लो एंड लेट्स गो इनटू FNH पॉन्स, और लेट्स गो इनटू 3 versus 4 बिकॉज आई नो इट. So
yeah.
that's the benefit I think that Arjun has, and this is what Magnus has to really, really watch out for.
But yeah, design win जानते हैं मुझे. Sahil can lose. I believe in him. Agreed, भाई. I'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's
भाई
a way.
विशी सर ने थप्पा दिया भाई, क्रेजी.
भाई यहाँ तो क्रेजी फील आ गई भाई मुझे. मैं तो आंसू आ गया था कोई भाई. 5 टाइम वर्ल्ड चैंपियन कॉम्प्लीमेंट दे रहे भाई. बताओ यार क्या रखे भाई. ये
भाई
तो
मैं
मेरे चैनल पे
आपको पिछले 2 टूर्नामेंट से बोल रहा हूँ भाई, यू आर लुकिंग वे
भाई.
स्ट्रॉन्गर. मेरी बात मानते नहीं हो.
बट विशी सर से
इससे
अलग है ना भाई.
कुछ
मतलब
फर्क नहीं पड़ता
मतलब
मुझे.
विशी सर की बात अलग है ना भाई. मतलब दोस्त बोले तो भाई
बट
ऐसे ही तो
मैं जेन्युइनली बोल रहा हूँ भाई, जेन्युइनली योर चेस हैज इंप्रूव्ड अ लॉट, एंड व्हाटएवर यू आर डूइंग राइट नाउ, आई नो फॉर श्योर यू आर डूइंग समथिंग डिफरेंट.
By
I
the
know for
only
sure
thing
you are
is,
engaging more with chess in general, I think, which is a great thing, and I think it's definitely showing. You should go play some tournaments, why? I think you
भाई आई
can.
डिड प्ले तो 10 साल के बच्चों से हारने में तो दुख होता है.
भाई बट
Okay, it's
ओके,
India, but
यू हैव टू
still.
बी स्मार्टर यार. 10 साल के बच्चों से मत ही खेलो, अभी तो बेटर है भाई.
तो
चंदा जी पूछ रहे हैं, सहज भाई, यू डिड स्कूलिंग फ्रॉम कुलाची हंसराज मॉडल स्कूल. यस भाई, दैट वाज माय स्कूल, कुलाची हंसराज मॉडल स्कूल, in अशोक विहार, for 12 years actually,
by the way,
like
chat,
secondary and primary both.
would love to go full screen. थोड़ा सा ना like experience करते हैं up close because कैमरा थोड़ा दूर है. Would love to see both the players kind of think. Magnus for classical chess, like इतनी देर में Magnus पूरा tournament खत्म कर दिया था चेस को ओपन सहज भाई. He had already won the event in this much time, in 30 minutes. So it's so nice to see
नहीं
him
नहीं
calculate.
भाई, इतनी जल्दी कहाँ? डूडा ने हराया था ना
नहीं,
2 बार उसको.
no, I know, but let's fall back. Chat, कितने लोग हैं who saw Magnus play a classical world championship in real time? चाहे against Nepo हो, चाहे against Kryakin हो, Fabi हो, Vichy sir हो, like जो भी हो. If you have seen him play a classical world championship, like it reminds me of that. बड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है देख के, मैं classical देख के सहज भाई. What do you think?
या भाई, ट्रू ट्रू. सिर्फ नॉर्वे में ही देखने को मिलता है अब तो, बट इट इज डेफिनेटली अ रेयर साइट, especially as a chess fan. Amazing, amazing. But personally for me, I am proud to say that I have seen all of Magnus's world championships, all of them.
Agreed by. And the first one I remember was against Vichy sir, जहाँ पे तान्या commentate कर रही थी. तो अब and I was in college final year. So to now commentate with Tanya is crazy for me at least. So crazy
Arey, yes,
turnaround.
yes, of course, 100%.
And
Same actually. And I used to work with Tanya like, around that time. So but when that switch happened, I was thinking to myself, bhai, this is so crazy what she's doing. And now, commentating with her, you understand like how much work she actually puts in
yeah,
into what she does. So yeah.
it's like एक बुक है ना, like think वो क्या था, how to calculate like a GM, जहाँ पे वो tree variations बोलते हैं, like you think of one move and then उसमें 4-5 tree निकलते हैं and then
भाई, ये
other move
कहाँ से आ
4-5.
रही हैं आपकी चीजें? कहाँ, क्या
भाई
कर रहे हो
भाई
आप? क्या
भाई,
है
ये तो
ये?
बेसिक बुक है भाई, ये तो
What
हर
is
किसी
what
ने
is
करी.
why be Tikku is talking
so
about a chess book? वो जो बेसिक,
नहीं
भाई
नहीं
कब से हो गया ये?
so
कब हुआ
so
ये? भाई
उस
कौन?
ट्री का जो
अपने कोच का नाम बताओ तुम.
भाई,
नाम बताओ
उस
तुम. उसको छोड़,
उस ट्री
वो
का जो
छोड़ो,
पहला
बाकी सारी
ब्रांच, जो
बातें
पहला
छोड़ो. तुम
स्टेम है
मुझे
ना,
बताओ
दैट
कोच कौन है तुम्हारा?
भाई
ये
नहीं
कहाँ
है
से आ
भाई
रही हैं
कोच
चीजें?
को. जो वो उस ट्री का जो ब्रांच, जो मेन स्टेम है, दैट्स तानिया. आई फील लाइक विदाउट हर, लाइक आई थिंक मेनी ऑफ द पीपल डूइंग कंटेंट वुड नॉट बी डूइंग कंटेंट और कमेंट्री. सो
भाई
दैट वाज द
भाई,
पॉइंट.
ये मेरी एक्स वाली एनालॉजी से चेस की किताबों की एनालॉजीज कब कब हुआ ये चेंज? चैट,
भाई शादी
डू
हो
यू
गई ना भाई.
कैन
आई
यू
हैव टू
पिन पॉइंट द
वी हैव टू
मोमेंट जब ये
अडैप्ट टू
चेंज
द
हुआ?
चेंजिंग टाइम सहज भाई. एआई एंड मैरिज इज कमिंग फॉर यू आल्सो.
So AI, huh? AI, bro started
एआई एंड
using
मैरिज
AI.
बोथ आर कमिंग
Let's go.
फॉर यू.
Crazy भाई.
बाय द वे चैट, भाई स्ट्रीम लाइक करो यार. विशी सर यहाँ पे थे, स्ट्रीम कम से कम 500 लाइक हो जानी चाहिए. चैट एंड सहज भाई, काफी टाइम से डायमंड मेंबरशिप गिव नहीं किया है हमने. सो भाई
Hmm.
जैसे ही कितने लाइक्स, लेट मी चेक कितने लाइक्स हो गए भाई. आई एम गोना चेक. अभी हुए हैं कुल मिला के 300 लाइक्स. सो भाई 669 लाइक्स पे हम देंगे पहली में. जल्दी से भाई लाइक्स डबल कर दो एंड वी गोना गिव यू वन चेस कॉम डायमंड मेंबरशिप मंथली. लेट्स गो चैट.
Yeah. Okay. Also, chat. I'll prepare the question
हाँ.
Magnus related.
भाई अर्जुन भी सोच रहा है क्या सवाल हो सकता है यार. गेम तो पता नहीं, डायमंड
Magnus
में जीत
related.
जाऊं.
Magnus edition question होगा chat. Oh, A4.
ओ
भाई Magnus again. शुरू हो गया भाई Magnus का. ड्रॉ है, बट आओ आओ दिखाते हैं आपको ड्रॉ.
सो A4 में I would think कई बार maybe like after D5 like I can get the B4 square. Oh wow, D5 is a big mistake. Bhai, I
Bye
told
bye
you I can
bye.
lose this.
Yeah, so like as a rule of thumb for you chat, like in a position like this, there are like many, let's say many like books written about this subject. It's large. It's basically called, for the lack of a better word, it's called the art of doing nothing. Okay, and in a position like this, यू आर बेसिकली डूइंग नथिंग फ्रॉम ईच साइड. जो भी आप करोगे उसका इफेक्ट अभी नहीं आएगा, और जो भी इफेक्ट आ रहा है वो मोस्ट लाइकली गलत ही होगा. एंड दैट इज एंड दैट मीन्स नो स्ट्रक्चरल चेंजेस, नथिंग टू डायनामिक, नथिंग टू फोर्सिंग. आराम आराम से सब पीसेस के साथ आराम आराम से प्ले, मेक स्लो मूव्स. यू डोंट हैव टू अटैक एनीथिंग, you don't have to put pressure on anything or anything like that. So a move like d5 in this position would, it feels good because you're fixing the structure, your bishop becomes good, but it's a structural change, and that's why you should avoid making it. I think in this specific scenario there is knight e5 check. But small moves like bishop g7 or h5 or ये कोने वाले pawns are still fine because that doesn't change the nature of the position, but never central pawns.
Agreed, Saj bhai. Makes a lot of sense. And I think ऐसी ही analysis की वजह से I am becoming stronger. Chat, you can also become
Bhai,
stronger by
I'll double.
following our
Bhai,
commentary.
if this is the result, I will double down. I will triple. Bhai, if you want to do like, if you want literally, if you want to do some like work, you should contact me like without even
Bhai,
this. We'll find a way
done
to
bhai.
do it.
Done bhai. जिस
Bhai,
दिन
I'm down. See,
जिस
seriously, I'm
दिन
down. I love to do this. Yeah.
जिस दिन मैं कंटेंट से बोर जाऊंगा,
भाई
the first thing I will do.
आप कल रात को मेरे ब्लिट्स का वो chess.com का ब्लिट्स का हिस्ट्री देखो. मैं कल रात को 3 बजे तक खेल रहा था. भाई मैं यही करता हूँ.
भाई खेलना चाहिए, बहुत जरूरी है चेस कॉम्पिटिटिव खेलना. अगर अगर ऐसा आई
अभी
डोंट नो इफ
2800
दिस अ
हुई
चेस
थी यार.
प्लेयर.
फिर किस मतलब हारा बुरी तरह से. भाई बट जो गेम आपको भेजा वो क्रेजी था ना.
हाँ, ये तो था, बट आई डोंट थिंक दिस अ सिंगल चेस प्लेयर इन द वर्ल्ड हु हैज अ रेटिंग ऑफ मोर देन लाइक 700-800 and has not spent an entire night just losing rating. So it's just like the most relatable thing among all players. By the way, Magnus Carlsen gets up from the chair after playing a4 and पूरी तैयारी लग रही है for a Magnus squeeze. Sahaj bhai, you know, if this was, let's go back 10 years for a second. This was 2020, 2016, 2014, I don't know. You look at this position, you think भाई मैग्नस तो यहाँ पे दबदबा बनाएगा. Like you know कि
We
it's
will
gonna
think
happen.
Magnus is winning. भाई Magnus जीत चुका
हाँ,
है.
exactly.
You would think
Exactly.
खत्म है game. But also let's not forget कि Magnus was a pioneer of this thinking. Yeah. So back then, even top players did not comprehend this to the extent that
True.
Magnus did, and that's what Magnus utilized to stay and maintain at the top. But अब सबको पता है कि Magnus क्या कर रहा है, so it becomes more predictable. So Arjun does have chances. He's still playing the best moves, but difficult road ahead. That is for sure. By the
पर
way,
अगर
question for
हाँ,
chat. आपने बोला ना कि आप no player has spent like 6-7 hours or something like this, playing chess and tilting and winning and losing. Chat, what is the longest amount of time you have spent on chess, not watching commentary? मैं commentary की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, but playing blitz. सिर्फ blitz, rapid, bullet, जो भी हो. God, what's the longest amount of time you have spent doing that? Oh, well, right answers only, of course, yeah.
हाँ, maybe 20 hours, I don't know सहज भाई, ये तो आपने बहुत
20 hours? No
it's
ways.
possible as a kid,
No
definitely
ways.
possible.
No.
वो भी बोर्ड
14
एग्जाम्स के बीच
hours
में
तो
भाई.
भाई क्या बात कर रहे हो यार. 24 भाई आप ठीक हो.
भाई भाई easy 20 hours, that too during board exams का prep भाई. Like I remember as a kid like just playing online chess. Maybe not. No. That was not 20 years. But okay, at some point I must have 100%. Like it's just very normal. And also, by the way, I want
Why?
to point
Maybe
out a
I'm
very
the only not a die-hard fan. Yeah, the longest I think I've played Blitz. Okay, I'm excluding when I was like 12, 13 years old. But longest maybe I've spent is maybe like 3 hours, 4 hours playing Blitz.
yeah.
Longest.
भाई इतना तो मेरा रोज का है. इतना तो
Okay,
इतना
lately
तो
it's getting more. Lately I'm really getting into Blitz and Bullet and all of that because I don't know, I'm finding this new interest, like or let's say regenerated interest. But yeah.
yeah. And I think also I want to point out thing about the position. Chat भी by the way is going crazy. Yeah, 20 मिनट से लेके 20 साल तक की predictions है. So chat totally relatable. After a4 bishop g7, chat यहाँ पे ना अनगिनत choice है. You could play rook e1. You could play something like h4, g4. You could play a5. But somehow like bishop d2 जो Magnus ने खेली, it's the first preference of the engine. And usually it wouldn't matter, I think, if he played something else. But somehow na, he has this skill of even in these completely irrelevant positions, he comes up with the best way to put pressure. क्या difference है bishop d2 पहले खेलने में या rook e1 पहले खेलने में? God knows सहज भाई. At least I don't know. But Magnus हमेशा has this intuition कि भाई ये piece चलूंगा ना पहले तो might give me better chances.
Yeah, for sure. I think in Magnus's case, this is 100% the truth but let's also try to understand because, of course, we have spent a lot of time looking at Magnus and of course we understand what he's doing. And this is textbook positional play because in your mind, all the moves that Tekubai mentioned that white can play g4, white can play h4, white can play rook e1, white can play a5. But note the similarity between all of these moves. Okay, if you play one, then you are saying that I am only playing that. But an elite player thinks past that. They are thinking ye bhi hai, ye bhi hai, ye bhi hai. So let me play one move that helps all of these other moves. So which is bishop d2 in this sense. मैं अभी भी वो 4 moves खेल सकता हूँ. but आपको नहीं पता कि मैं कौन सी खेलने वाला, and that's where my strength lies. So that's basically the reason why Magnus chose to do, again, the art of doing nothing. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep, and that'll deception as well, keeping your main idea hidden. Great point, Sahej bhai. And also, koi keh raha hai ki, is this tournament like new? Like I've not heard about this. This is quite a popular tournament. I think Arjun has played this, Vidit has played this. We don't necessarily cover it every single year because okay, it's like one Indian playing and usually clashes with some other event, yeah, candidates or something else. But luckily it's separate. And also we have Magnus and Arjun and Erdogmus, by the way. I'm really excited for the Erdogmus and Arjun clash and Magnus Erdogmus clash. So I think this is an amazing event to cover, and it's just great to see Magnus in action again, by. And I'm very surprised, by the way, Magnus agreed. Like, what could be the logic, Sahaj, by? Any guesses on Magnus kind of accepting to play this, yeah? Any guesses?
Tough, why? Very tough. I think it's also because Magnus was surprised. You mean why is he playing the tournament?
Yeah, exactly. Like even I was surprised,
भाई
right? To
that
hear.
is normal, that is not भाई मैं खुद बता रहा हूँ. I mean, okay, I can compare it to some level because okay, I used to play chess professionally as well, but now I'm not playing as much. But Magnus तो एकदम different level पे है, right? It's playing like elite. So I'm guessing when you don't play classical chess for that long, by something you feel something is not right in your life. You feel like you've lost touch with reality. Sometimes it because then you go to a chess tournament and then you play even one game also you play, no, you feel so good after winning a match. And I'm guessing that's what it's about, right?
Definitely. And also chat ka point bhi acha hai. He's also practicing for Norway chess. And that's a fair point also because last classical event that he played was Norway chess. So maybe he felt, okay, he was a bit rusty and maybe also like he loves the country, right? मुझे याद है जब World Apple Blitz में गए थे तो I was also there and Magnus से पूछा गया था like, coming back here. He says, okay, I have good relationships with the organizers. I love the country. I came here. Like that's the kind of vibe he's going with as well. And also nowadays he's traveling with his wife. So, I think location maybe also matters a bit. Let's see what happens. Magnus Carlsen against Arjun. By the way, ये पीछे toothbrush क्यों है? मैंने अभी देखे सहज भाई. How have I not noticed these चार toothbrushes behind? लगता है sponsor लगता है.
Toothbrushes? समझा नहीं
हाँ,
भाई.
चार can we go full screen? चार toothbrush लटक रहे हैं भाई.
Oh yes, that
Pink,
is
blue,
true.
yellow और purple. Which one would you choose सहज भाई? Colors में से.
डेंटिस्ट का सुझाया हुआ नंबर 1 ब्रांड.
भाई किसी और का नाम मत ले लेना भाई क्या पता कोई
वो
और ही
तो
हो.
नहीं ले रहा भाई मैं, वो तो नहीं ले रहा भाई मैं.
But okay, which color would you choose सहज भाई if you had to choose?
ये कैसा सवाल है भाई? I would
Ah, TePe is oral healthcare company. Oh, glad to know
I'll
that.
choose blue by hands down blue. Like I
भाई
wouldn't
यार
even.
मेरा
Okay,
कलर
purple also maybe I'll choose. दोनों बाकी दो तो नहीं भाई. Which one will you
मेरा
choose?
मेरा कलर चूज कर दिया आपने. So then I'll go with orange. Yeah, I mean if not blue then orange maybe second best.
Yeah. Can Sahaj bhai draw this position against Stockfish? So I'm so happy that you guys asked this question to me, chat, because like let me tell you that I think I have a higher probability of drawing this position against Stockfish in comparison to Magnus. बिकॉज स्टॉकफिश वही खेलेगा जो कंप्यूटर की टॉप चाल है. एंड अगेन द लाइकलीहुड ऑफ गोइंग इन टू लाइक सम थियोरेटिकल एंड गेम इज वेरी हाई. बट अगर आप उस पर थोड़ा सा ह्यूमन इनपुट डाल दोगे ना कि ठीक है आई विल प्ले लाइक, ठीक है मुझे पता है कि यहाँ पर ये बहुत ईजिली ड्रॉ कर लेगा, बट आई प्ले समथिंग एल्स विच कॉम्प्लिकेट्स थिंग्स एंड इंक्रीजेस द चांस ऑफ मिस्टेक्स. दैट्स व्हाट मैग्नस कैन डू. सो in I'm pretty sure I would lose in both scenarios, but I think against Magnus I have a lesser chance.
That's a excellent point. And basically सर कह रहे हैं कि for example अगर Stockfish को दिख रहा है कि rook h1 and then rook h8 are the best moves for white and black, he will just play those, exchange rooks, exchange pieces, and it will be a draw. So he will put pressure, Stockfish that is, but it likely is going to end in a draw. But Magnus क्या है? He will see rook e1, he will say भाई इसमें draw होने के chances बढ़ रहे हैं, I'm going to play the second best move and just keep the game running for longer. So that's why I think somehow the chances of losing against Magnus become higher. But yeah,
Exactly.
I mean, it's a tough battle regardless. I think Magnus or Stockfish.
No, I think it will be much more easier against Stockfish. I think because Stockfish will just simplify because it sees only zeros and ones. It doesn't see like okay यहाँ पे difficult होगा बचाना है वो सब. That's hard to quantify, right? And Magnus effect, I think if you're telling me that there is Stockfish or Magnus, I mean then I'm not sure if Magnus effect is going to be there because the other person is Stockfish. But lekin, it's still going to be very difficult regardless. So I think Arjun is equal. Even on the bar at chess, he's slightly better as well. In fact, his position looks more pleasant, but we know that Magnus is going to find a way to put some pressure here.
Agreed. And by the way, Arjun, यहाँ पे so चारों games roughly balanced अभी कोई भी game में we don't have a clear favorite. I don't know if we have like the bird's eye view. If not, if yes, we'd love to have a just a 30-second look at it. But otherwise, we can stick to this game.
Which game?
Bishop D2. Oh, we have the bird's eye view. Sahaj bhai, just the predictions on the number of results we can expect today. Chat, you can make your own predictions as well.
Let's also do like a rundown of everything. I think basically the positions are pretty much the same like we left them. So on the top left corner, we see Zhu Jiner versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov, जहाँ पे Bishop straight हुए थे when Vishy sir was here, and now it looks like Nodirbek is at least equal, if not slightly better. वो C5 का break जब भी आएगा, I think position will look much better for him. Yagiz versus Jordan में Yagiz has been thinking for quite some time now. My guess is around 20-25 minutes. And in the previous move, उसकी preparation खत्म हुई थी, but I'm guessing the time is equal now. It looks more pleasant for white, but should be equal with correct play. Andy versus Nils, I think it's very clear that it is white who has a slightly better position. So Andy, I believe, has to be a bit more careful here, or it is Nils who has to be more careful.
Yeah. So how many
Can you hear
results,
me?
Sahaj bhai? How many results?
एक या दो भाई?
I'm going to choose one. I think आज मुझे लग रहा है because players look prepared, like Erdogmus looks prepared. Arjun Magnus also looks equal. By the way, H5 played. That's a great move, by the way. Love that move. Complementing, putting your pawns on light squares, complementing your bishop, and also preventing G4 ideas from white gaining space. So nice move. And yeah, I'm going to predict one result. And what result likely I'm going to expect in Nodirbek versus Zhu Jiner Sahaj. But I feel like Nodirbek, with his experience and the stronger player by far, might just kind of win that game.
Yeah, for sure. Also with black having that position, also Nodirbek has some 20-minute time, a 40-minute time advantage over Zhu Jiner as well. So that definitely has to factor in somewhere. And so I think Nodirbek looking pretty positive so far.
So let's go back to the Arjun Magnus game. By the way, chat, accuracy wise, if you really wanted some hope, if अगर तुम मेरी तरह super optimist हो, मतलब glass half full नहीं, glass उसके उससे भी ज्यादा full है somehow. We are breaking the laws of physics here. ठीक है, इतना full है, like straight line जा रही है glass के ऊपर पानी की. Accuracy of Magnus is 97.2 and Arjun is 98.2.
शर्मा जी का लड़का कौन है फिर?
दोनों का एडमिशन तो नहीं होगा डीओ में, बट आई थिंक maybe if this
शर्मा जी तो
extends a
करा
bit.
देंगे भाई, शर्मा जी करा देंगे.
उनके तो सॉन्ग
उनके
है ना भाई, वो
कॉन्टैक्ट्स
100
हैं.
वाला. मतलब बेसिकली माय पॉइंट इज लाइक maybe अर्जुन कैन होप कि कल को कुछ प्रेशर डाल पाए मैगोट के ऊपर.
किसी ने
मतलब
कहा था ना
maybe.
बड़ा, इंडिया इज अ कंट्री ऑफ कहीं पे.
भाई ध्यान से बोलना जो भी बोलने वाले आगे, भाई ध्यान से बोलना जो भी बोल. मुझे नहीं पता
साहिल भाई एकदम से उठ गए यार.
मुझे पता नहीं है क्या था स्टेटमेंट कंप्लीट, बट
नहीं
आई
पता
फील
आपको?
लाइक कि
अच्छा, क्रेजी.
भाई सुना हुआ लग रहा है, बट मेरी
हाँ,
इंट्यूशन
सुना
कह रही
तो
है
है
कि
आपने.
इंट्यूशन कह रही है कि भाई वी शुड स्टॉप. So Sahej bhai, would you rather be white in this position or black? Forget the players, yeah?
I would be white, bhai. I would still choose to be white because my knights are nicely placed. If you play the move d5, there is knight e5 check always. I have more space in the center at least, and on the queen side with some knight e2 and c4 wale plans. I like white's position more. I think it's very much easier to make draw with white than it is with black.
Very interesting. So chat, I just want to point out कि भाई candidates आप लोगों ने follow किया. Vaishali did win it. Sahej bhai, I mean, what a historic moment. अभी in fact Vishy sir had that celebration जहाँ पे they felicitated Vaishali and Gukesh came in. Gukesh ने पता क्या बोला? I saw one clip. I don't know where I saw that clip. I think somewhere. जहाँ पे वो कहते हैं Gukesh, like he was, while Vaishali was playing her final round, he was like cheering for Vaishali, and when she won, like he kind of ऐसे like stood up and kind of screamed kind of to some extent, like when she won. So like वो एक mutual
so
वो होता है
sweet.
ना, एक वो feeling है like सारे players में to see each other grow. That's amazing as well.
But on that note, it will be interesting, yeah. Olympiad, I mean, Vishy sir ke thoughts be about Sindarov and Nodirbek, who's going to be board one, who's going to be board two. It's very interesting, actually. And by the way, and another interesting fact, I'm not sure if you remember, but chat, that coach of Sindarov, right? Who's the current candidates winner. I'm sure you've heard about him, but the coach of Sindarov is Roman Vidoniak. And a very interesting fact about him is that last year, ये tournament Fedosave जीता था. ठीक है? और फेडोसिव का कोच भी रोमन वेदोनिया की था इस इवेंट में। एंड उसके बाद अब सिंडारोव को उसने कैंडिडेट्स में कोच किया, वर्ल्ड कप में कोच किया, एंड ऑफ कोर्स ही इज हियर विद सिंडारोव एज वेल, sorry in
Hmm.
GCT as well. So it
Very
is
interesting.
gonna be interesting, that match.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग। कुछ सीक्रेट ट्रेनिंग मेथड्स उनके हैं जो मुझे भी जानने हैं सहज भाई, तो कैसे मैं हैक कर सकता हूँ उनकी ट्रेनिंग, मुझे बताइए।
भाई भाई भाई, आप तो ऑलरेडी इतने हैक कर चुके हो भाई,
बाय
क्रेजी। Oh, look at this.
द
Knight e2 was played. Good move. Rerouting, defending the knight on d4. Maybe planning some c3 or c4, expanding on the queen side. And now the ball is in Arjun's court. What do you play?
सहज भाई, I I kind of see कि black का target क्या है, ठीक है? So as if I'm black, if you can flip the board for a second, सहज भाई, I see I have only one target right now, that is d4, ठीक है? Like if my bishop is indirectly putting pressure on the d4 pawn. So I don't want white to play c3 and defend it. So maybe I play knight d5, tempt you, ahaja c4, and then drop the knight back. I don't know when. Maybe knight b6 looks tempting, or knight e7. And then basically I might have d4 as a target. What do you think about this psychology?
I mean, it's good, but I'm not so sure how easy it is to play knight d5, knight d7 here.
Hmm.
Because Magnus is trying to play c4 himself, and what you're essentially saying is that, just for context, chat, the first best move is of course what Tikubai suggested, knight d5. If I gave you, like, let's say, five guesses, I don't think you would be able to tell without looking. I don't think you would be able to tell me what the second best move is, because it is so ridiculous. I'm just gonna wait like 5 seconds for people to just like do a bunch of guesses. Tikubai, do you
Hmm.
want to take a guess as well? You can also
Rukechiek.
just Rukechi. So
Rukechiek is
that's
the
not the move. That's not the move. So I'll tell you guys. So I think enough time
hmm.
has passed. People would have guessed the move as well. Knight c7. Bhai, that's too normal. Yeah, these moves are looking too normal. The move is knight to g8. So it's
Okay.
like the idea is the same, because अगर आप c4 खेलते हो तो knight e7 and you get the exact same situation. So in essence, what the engine is telling us is that if white is supposed to play c4, जो white खेलना ही चाहता है, our knight should be on e7, but वो कैसे आ रहे हो उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ता. But how this is so difficult, no?
Okay, because even my idea of playing knight d5, my first thought was to play knight b6, not even knight e7, because I want to attack c4 and then even force b3 somehow. And I thought that would be beneficial. Maybe it's not actually, the engineers like it. But why is the knight better placed on e7? Like, why is that a better square for the knight? Is it because the bishop now is unblocked? Is that the reason?
Yeah, knight e7, knight f5. Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, knight f5 खेल के pawn को भी अभी pressure डाल रहे हो, so that could
Hmm.
also be a reason. But yeah, difficult thing to kind of understand. चैट में अर्जुन जी पूछ रहे हैं, सजेस्ट मी अ माउस फॉर बुलेट चेस अंडर 1000. आई यूज टू हैव, कौन सा था मेरा, लॉगिट, आई मीन कंपनी वाइज आई थिंक लॉगिटेक इज द बेस्ट, स्पेशली इफ यू आर
Hmm.
अंडर 1000, then I think that's Logitech is the best.
So
Do
I
not
have
go for a heavy mouse. Like
I have a
this is
great
a
advice
mistake a lot
here.
of, yeah.
For mouse and ये वाले wired earphones, like I don't know, जितना भी मैं महंगा ले लूं, I always, like, they stop working for me within couple of 3-4 months, always. So I go for the cheapest option. So मेरा तो ये है भाई, M186, very cheap, under 1000, which whenever it gets spoiled, I buy a new one and I don't regret it
So
basically. So for me,
I
this
I
is the
got
answer, भाई.
I was using, I think, MX Anywhere from Logitech for like a very long time. It's not
Hmm.
really like a
Hmm.
expensive one, but then recently I switched my mouse to like a really good one. This is
कितना टाइम हो गया बॉस
L,
को?
ये वाले को 1 साल, but my rating also, like, it really helps. It's very easy to play with it.
Oh
Somehow I
wow.
can't explain it.
So if you're
Oh,
saying कि
yeah.
if I invest in a good, mouse, my rating can go up, Sahej bhai.
I think 50 points or so it can, yeah. 50
Damn.
points. Some maybe even more. Like if you play bullet, I think it could, yeah, for sure. But I think a lot of the big mistake is that India mein na wo, like Amazon Pay, like in other like places, you get a lot of these mouses which are looking very fancy, like
Hmm.
like
Ha
Red
ha
Dragon.
ha ha
I'm
ha
not,
ha ha.
I don't want to say the company's name, but like, there are many places, but those mouses are great for gaming, but not for bullet, because bullet के लिए you need a quick mouse, like not a
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah, yeah.
I have like 10 of those in my houses, क्योंकि मैं कहीं ये अच्छा लग रहा है, ये बढ़िया होगा, but it's always bad. Use the most simplest and the lightest option.
Agreed. And by the way, Chad, just coming to the game for a second, we were discussing this knight g8, knight d5 concept with the plan of knight e7, but Arjun falls for the trap of exchanging pieces. Sahaj bhai, I mean, I would think maybe this was not such a huge priority here. Like, it's not like bishop on d2 is suddenly gonna start firing, fire from his mouth or something. So bishop h6 kind of wasting a move because हमने bishop g7 एक चाल में खेला था. And then again we have to waste two moves, taking with the rook and bringing it back. Feels like it's an invitation for Magnus to basically take a slight edge here somehow.
I feel like this looks very similar to Magnus effect for me, and I'm not sure Arjun will play bishop h6 if it wasn't Magnus.
Agreed.
Like why your bishop I think is also fine, but yeah, I mean this is the effect we were talking about. I think Magnus is going to be very scary now, and look at the nuances in the position. Firstly, there are two good moves which are interchangeable. There is b4 and then there is h4. I think h4 probably throwing first makes more sense to me, because then in the some near future you can put your knight on g5, put pressure here, and it's kind of like an outpost. अगर आप f6 खेल के knight को kick करते हो तो e6 का square मुझे मिल सकता है, g6 का pawn आपका weak हो सकता है, and subsequently आपका h5 का pawn भी weak हो सकता है, which is just another problem. I feel with his last move, Arjun, he has given Magnus the freedom to continue this game forever.
Agreed. Absolutely agree, Sahaj bhai. You summed it up well. I feel like, this is like the dream scenario for Magnus, जो हम बात कर रहे थे about, Magnus just squeezing water out of a stone. I can tell you he's licking lips right now. He's excited about the position. This is the best chance he's had. And again, like if you go back a move, Sahaj bhai, if the bishop just came to g7, like 3 moves back, Arjun could have really changed the move order and brought the bishop directly to h6. But he went bishop g7, then he played h5, and then he played bishop h6. So to me, it makes no sense apart from Magnus effect in real time. And after this exchange, like the bishop on, okay, Magnus also played bishop d2, but
yeah,
I feel
exactly.
like
That it's not that he wasted a move. Magnus also played bishop d2 and bishop. So, I mean, in essence, it's the same, but just I think the idea of it
also the rook, na?
feels.
Like the rook
Yeah,
has to
also
now
the
go
rook on
back.
h6 is
Yeah.
bad. I mean, it's just the idea of it doesn't feel right to me, because now I think yeah, this is just going towards equality, and we have seen Magnus push so well, so successful, with such a good success rate. Magnus pushes in such positions. So yeah, this is not the best development so far.
Agreed. And यहाँ पे I think after, okay, now for example, Chad, I think we discussed, yeah, h4, b4, and b4 to me looks very tempting, Sahaj. Why the knight on a6 rather looks stupid. Okay, let's kind of go through a normal main line. Let's say white plays b4. What do you play as black?
After b4,
Hmm.
very difficult, I think, to make moves, because you also have c4 incoming by. I don't like this at all. Like knight a c7 maybe, c4, or then I have
c4.
b5. Actually, no, b5. Oh, c4 is also. Bhai, this is looking very bad.
But b5 is very bad actually because e5 square मिल जाएगा. Similar to black playing
Exactly.
b5. So
This
white
is
can just
very
push pawns,
difficult.
yeah?
Yeah. I think Magnus's next few moves are quite simple in comparison. Okay, it's a simple position, but yeah, it's looking very nice. Gaming King ji bol rahe hain, I think knight g8 is quite logical, because after c4 the pawn of e4 will be targeted, so you want the g7 bishop to look at it, and also the knight f6 is quite passive because of f3, so you want to reroute it. Bhai, matlab, I think it's great that you are able to understand and formulate your thoughts in such a nice way, but you see, it is very easy to explain it after seeing it. Like, because the entire explanation you're giving me right now only came after you saw the idea, then you justify, because you know this is correct. But in a game, like, you don't know that this is correct. I've had a lot of conversations about this, firstly with my own mom, who used to be like, ये तो engine पे ये खेल सकता था, तो ये क्यों नहीं खेला, ये तो मुझे भी दिख जाती, things like that. And then afterwards I saw it with other parents as well, like someone I'm coaching, like his parent be like, ये तो मैं भी देख लूंगा. But it's very difficult, very nuanced. Yeah, so
I
knight
think
jet
then
is a very weird move, because it's not like, why would you put the knight to the original
yeah,
square? That's the question. आपका वो thought
agreed.
formulate कैसे होगा वहां से?
Also, I think it's very comparable to, let's say you are solving a maths puzzle and you have the answer at the back of the book, right? You look at the answer, it kind of then helps you solve the problem to some extent. So chess may you have to make that choice, right? Okay, knight g8 to me looks like a decent move, but I have 10 other options. I have to compare it to other options. Will it come up on top? I'm not sure. But once I see the answer, I think I can justify it. Okay, it's a nice move after all. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. But Magnus is definitely happy about this. And Joe, I saw a comment कि Magnus time पे पीछे है 13 minutes. In fact, now it's more. It's 16 minutes. I don't think time is a factor at all. Like अगर Magnus के यहाँ 5 minutes होते ना, if he had increment, I think he can just play 5-6 moves very quickly and he can still put a lot of pressure. I don't think time is a factor for either player actually. So I think this is just Magnus versus Arjun in raw form in a position which Magnus पूरे स्टाइल ने बैठती है उनकी उनकी ना it's right in his alley. This is what he wanted actually. And look at this. Best move played. Arjun under slight pressure now.
That's an understatement, भाई. Arjun in big pressure. वो उसको FNH pawns वाला भी गेम याद आ रहा होगा भाई. FNH pawns तो यहाँ पर भी हैं, rooks तो यहाँ पर भी हैं. Is it round 2? But we'll see. Of course, early days for that. But by the way, Tiku bhai, after knight c7, b5 straight is possible. And I think for sure Arjun missed this. There is no way you allow b5 knowing that b5 exists. Because look at this. If you take, there is rook b1 and b7 gayo.
Wow. Okay, Magnus will not clearly take, Sahaj bhai. So maybe he will just, Arjun will just, maybe just take.
टेक बेस्ट ही लग रहा है भाई. टेक फिर थोड़ा वेट करो फिर उसके बाद तीसरा वाला.
But okay, b5 is quite interesting actually. I love that move because आपने a pawn को भी कहीं ना कहीं रोक दिया and you always have c4 in the air to support that pawn. And it's so
also this rook on h8 h6 is so annoying now because you in the back of your mind you are like okay मेरे को एक चाल से रुक वापस तो लाना पड़ेगा because imagine this chat. Let's say black plays a6, you take, white takes back, and now if white was to play something like rook b1, you cannot challenge me on the b8 square because ये rook यहाँ पे बैठा हुआ है. तो ये it's a very bad square and you have to invest one. It's like black is already worse, but black has to invest one more move and then black is worse. So that's the sad thing about that bishop h6 move.
भाई हम लोग बात कर रहे थे Arjun being ahead on the clock. That's what we're talking about, right? That Arjun is 16 minutes ahead. I can guarantee मतलब I'm ready to bet one Chess.com membership on the line that unless the game finishes, in the next, I don't know, 5-10 moves, Arjun will be behind on the clock by a decent margin here because सोचना पड़ेगा उसको. This is not gonna be easy. And by the way, knight c7, nice move played by Arjun. And Sahaj bhai, now c4, for example, I think works as we discussed, but there's also b5 still possible from white.
भाई तब से यही तो डिस्कस कर रहे हैं भाई. b5.
Like remember with a different takes.
It was the same position, right? Takes and then rook b1 and rook b1. Yeah, same thing. I think Magnus has seen it. He wouldn't play b4 if he didn't see b5.
Wow.
And b5 के बाद okay, slight pressure तो है मेरे पास. See, played immediately.
Wow, bhai, I didn't expect him to play it so quickly though. Instantly played b5, best move. And now the best move is actually rook b8, which to me does not look natural when my rook is already on h6. I want to play rook h8, Sahaj bhai. That's my default go-to move, जो मुझे खेलनी नहीं पड़ती अगर मेरा bishop 6 नहीं खेला होता मैंने.
हाँ भाई, exactly. A6, rook h8, so many moves possible. And I was looking at Magnus's world championship like games and stuff. Usually I felt कि there is a moment जहाँ पे Magnus एकदम most Magnus way में जीतता है. Like जैसे Karyakin को उसने हराया था कोई तो it was some Italian with that pawn on e6. I think we were talking about it sometime as well. It was on demand game, some 60 move long game. Then against Fabi, I think the match was not over until the last round where he had like a very good position and then okay tie breaks mein he won. Then against Nepo he had that crazy 100 move ka game, 150 move ka jo game tha, uske baad he just won the match. And I feel like we are seeing Magnus after in classical chess after such a long time, correct? It's been besides Norway chess we have not seen Magnus play for years now, and I feel for Magnus this match is really important because if he wins this, then in the most Magnus way, because I think that's what he's going for. If he wins in the most Magnus way, I think Magnus even ends up with, it could be possible that he ends up with 2850 when this tournament finishes, which is ridiculous. But if Magnus doesn't win in the most Magnus way, then thoda problem aa sakta hai, you know.
I have to agree with that. 2840 is his rating right now. And he's going to play 7 rounds here against some very, very strong players. Arjun hai, Nodirbek hai, and so on. I just want to make it clear कि भाई Magnus, I would say like मैंने जो comment, for example, I want to add one context कि जब भी कोई tournament announce होता है जहां Magnus का शक्ल भी है graphic के अंदर, the top comment every single time is congrats for Magnus to winning the event. Who is fighting for second place? भाई like ऐसे comments होते हैं, which is not a surprise. And I have to come back. How does he do it, Sahaj bhai? वो motivation कहाँ से आती है? Is it just because he's so good? He's so good कि without even putting all his effort, he can just pull this off every single time? Or does he consciously put that effort every single time because he knows he's the best? क्या है भाई? Is it the
It's
skill or is it
because
also
he
the
has worked
motivation?
the hard. He has worked the hardest, and I think he's exceptionally gifted. I think I'm from to work. I mean, we should have asked this question to Vishu sir because he's
हाँ,
been in a similar situation because he has also a five-time world champion. He has also worked equally as hard when it comes to five world championships, पांच world championships में आपने काम किया है 6 6 महीने तो like I'm sure you've done work for the next like 10 generations. So you are absolutely fine. You can just chill and you can come back.
ice is cold and Magnus Wien. ये भी comment होता है by the way. Pretty common comment in those posts. He is gifted, of course he's gifted, but of course he's very, very hardworking as well. Magnus has worked with Kasparov, by the way, who is arguably also the GOAT, as Magnus often says it. So help भी काफी अच्छी मिली. And of course, Saj bhai, if Magnus were to let's say Erdogmus से match पड़ता है यहाँ पे. Chad, I don't know if you've seen this clip जहाँ पे Kasparov plays Magnus when Magnus was 13 years old. He's a pawn down, defends the position, is very impressed. And the same day he comes, meets him, and then kind of has a little training session with him. वो clip देखी आपने?
I think I've read about it for sure.
So like he literally same day he comes up and works with like for an hour with Magnus and kind of sees how Magnus thinks and is already impressed. Do you think the first time Erdogmus and Magnus play, if Erdogmus were to genuinely impress Magnus, like we could see him even help him like in some capacity? Do you think that's possible?
Um, I I'm not so sure like at this like strength it would actually be good for him or not because he's already the youngest 2700 in the world, and I think just by playing Magnus it would make all the difference. And I think अगर Magnus जैसा बंदा train भी करेगा ना तो you could technically overpower the potential because Magnus has that, right? He can right now right now of course Magnus is stronger, and I think Magnus has been the strongest player in the world. That can be too much pressure I think for someone. So I'm not so sure if helping is the right word. I think sparring would be I think phenomenal because also Yagiz has Mohamed Yarov. Yeah, he was former world number 2 chat. He's the one of the only players I think to be only players to be 2800 from Azerbaijan.
Yes.
Okay, technically Kasparov is also from Baku, but you
Rajabov,
know
I think also,
Rajabov
right?
was
2799, I think, right?
2799 था ना वो तो.
हाँ, ऐसा कुछ था.
हाँ. So it was between, okay, Gashimov was also there. He was 2780, but he passed away sadly due to an illness. So they had a lot of, I mean, also technically Kasparov is also born in Baku, so you can also say that.
Chat, by the way, stream like Roll, let's get more people in. I think regardless of whatever has happened in the past, let's see. Dogma से बाद में आएंगे. फिलहाल Arjun battling it out. Rook h8 played. I like that move. I think अगर मुझे blitz खेलना होता, bullet खेलना होता, that's the first move I would play. Rook h8 वापस लाओ. Fixed my position, and now at least I can potentially play Rook b8 if I was challenged with the b file. Sej bhai, of course we will not take on c6 and be cooperative. I'm guessing c4 should be like an automatic move now. Yeah, just gain more space.
Yeah, C4. I mean, I also don't see the benefit of playing C4 right now because it's still a committal move. Like maybe I will need the point. I mean, ये Magnus है, right? You have to think how Magnus would think. Like C4 might be the best move, but maybe it's too committal. I'm thinking something like H4 even, bhai. Like because I know a pawn takes B5 तो नहीं मार सकते हैं यहाँ पे. So this creates more problems for you because again I'm not committing. King side पे तो आप maybe you can play H4. So let's fix this weakness on g5 forever, and then let's see what's happening.
Yep. And यही
देखो
डिटेल है
भाई,
भाई कि पहले c4 खेलना है कि h4. दिस इज व्हाट सेपरेट्स मैग्नस फ्रॉम एवरीबॉडी एल्स सहज भाई. लाइक ये डिटेल, हल्की सी डिटेल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है.
absolutely. Tikko, I'll just be right back in a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, chat, Magnus having a sip of water, thinking about the position. बहुत crucial moment है ये, of course. He's picked up a bishop, twirling with the pieces. In fact, chat, I don't know, like before Magnus, I did not see many top players like ऐसे piece उठा के ऐसे खेलना उसके साथ मैंने देखा नहीं है. Magnus was one of the first ones for me at least. And Arjun, by the way, not even at the seat right now. Um, very interesting how this tournament goes. By the way, just want to point out, यहाँ पे 8 players हैं. Usually most events have like 9 rounds. This one only has 7 because 8 players हैं. Everybody plays everybody once. So Arjun will not play Magnus again. So opportunity यहीं पे है अर्जुन के पास कुछ interesting करने की. And बाकी जो players हैं, so 8 players are Magnus, Arjun, Nodirbek है, Erdogmus है, Van Foreest है, Nils है, Woodward है, Zhu Jiner है, and these are the 8 players. I think इसके अलावा I'm really excited about the Erdogmus match also. वो भी बहुत जल्दी आएगा. Gukesh, by the way, chat के लिए Gukesh कहाँ है? Gukesh is coming up soon, by the way. He is playing by the c4, played by Magnus, one of the best moves. I think he did not want to give Arjun the option of taking on b5. Maybe he wanted to avoid that possibility and simplification. That's why he just played c4, the logical move, and gaining space. Makes sense. And coming to Gukesh again, chat. Gukesh will be, playing the Grand Chess Tour Poland tournament, which is going to start from, I think, 5th of this month. So we'll stream both at the same time from 5th. दोनों stream करेंगे. And वहां पे सिंदारोव भी है भाई. So 3 game होंगे between Gukesh and Sindarov starting from 5th of this month. 4 दिन बाद 2 blitz के games, 1 rapid game. By all bets are off. I'm going to ask you, chat, a prediction as Arjun thinks. What do you think will be the score line between Gukesh and Sindarov in those 3 games? So 3-0 for Gukesh, 2.5, 1.5, 2-1, 1.5 each, 1-2, half, 0-3. What will be the score line between Gukesh on the left and Sindarov on the right? Sindarov in epic form, but can he pull it off in rapid and blitz as well is the question, right?
Right. And Tikubai, when is the first match starting?
I think it's on 5th, right? 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th are the 5 days. So 3 days of rapid and then
And when
2
does
days of
Sindarov
blitz.
play Gukesh?
I think one of the rapid days, we don't have the pairings out yet. So one of 5th,
Okay.
6th, 7th में एक दिन, and then 8th, 9th दोनों दिन खेलेगा. So it's going to be a epic clash. I'm really excited because even though like it's not really going to be classical chess, they will be sitting in front of each other and they will remember the result till the World Championship.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that will be a nice match, yeah. Really, really looking forward to it.
And look at chat, yeah. I mean, it takes something incredible to defeat like an Indian player in polls on Indian channels, by the way. So only Magnus can do that, Sahaj bhai. And right now, Sindarov 3-0, 2.5, half, like crazy, bhai. 2.5, 1 भी दिख रहा है मुझे. मतलब match break कर रहे Sindarov.
अरे भाई मतलब crazy. But I feel के अगर Sindarov is on this run and if he has, I mean, he definitely has a great psychological advantage over Gukesh right now because of his insane performance. But I think in a match everything is different, bhai. It's very, very important to maintain maintain consistency. And also let's not forget Sindarov अभी हारा भाई दुबोव के साथ. वो सो रहा था बेड, मतलब लिटरली बेड पे, एंड देन वो डिफीटेड हिम 3-0.
क्या गुकेश को काउच लेके आना चाहिए फिर और लेट जाना चाहिए
भाई दुबोव को साइन करो. दैट्स द फर्स्ट थिंग. फिगर आउट व्हाट ही नोज.
वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग. मैग्नस विल डिस्ट्रॉय अर्जुन हियर कह रहे हैं मिस्टर okay, नाम थोड़ा लंबा है. I would say कि यार definitely a possibility. I think it would not be like the surprise of the year if Magnus wins this. But Arjun, I think as we discussed, पहले भी सहज भाई has great defensive abilities, has done it against Magnus earlier in rapid chess. So he will also back himself to defend. So what is the plan, Sahaj bhai? Where do I put my rooks is the major question for me now. Because मैं rook h8 ले आया. Where do I put my A rook and where do I put my H rook? ये decision मुझे clear नहीं है अभी. So what is your take on this?
I would put it on E8 because it's the only open file. But the problem is in a position like this, no square has any like particular value. So it's unless you are calculating some 10-15 moves deep, it's going to be very difficult to realize where the rook placement is going to be the best. Optically, of course, e8 looks the best, but I'm looking at my screen right now. Rook h8 is not even top 3.
Wow.
So in fact, the best move is, I mean, if I gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 चाले, एक तो मैंने बता दिया नहीं है. इन पांचों में से एक स्क्वायर मैं आपको बोलूंगा, आप शायद आप तब भी नहीं गेस कर पाओगे कौन सा स्क्वायर है भाई. टेक अ गेस, टिको भाई.
Acha. So B8 feels normal to me.
That's not the square, see? It's actually rook h c8. I'm not even sure how you come up with a move like this, because rook h b8 also I can justify, क्योंकि bc के बाद maybe the b file opens up. Rook
किसके बाद
c8 के
सहज भाई?
बाद bc6 के बाद
Okay.
b
Sorry,
takes c6 के बाद.
हाँ
So
बिल्कुल मैं शॉक रह
rook
गया,
h
sorry.
c8 is like the move which, okay, optically does not make much sense to me. Rook h c8 is what I think, but okay, 19-20 का फर्क. But yeah, pressure तो है भाई, and slowly Magnus will start to put increase. I really don't like that bishop h6 move by Arjun, and I think he's going to suffer here, bhai.
Yeah, I think rook h8 का plan likely should be to take on b5. It seems like that at least at the right moment. But I really don't like taking on b5 because it just connects white pawns, and without a clear plan, I would not even consider that move. So tough choice for Arjun. Rook h8 very unlikely. सहज भाई, it feels like कि यहाँ पे अर्जुन लंबी सोच में जाने वाला है, and I have a guess in the next 2 to 3 moves he's going to be behind Magnus on the clock. Like literally 2-3 चालों में ही he'll be behind Carlsen, और Carlsen एक मिनट में चाल खेलने वाला है. He's not going to think for a long time for the next 5 moves or so.
Yeah, because the white's moves are pretty like simple. Black को थोड़ा setup करना है pieces. I think you are absolutely correct on that. I think 2-3 moves के अंदर very likely. Magnus I think is very relaxed also. He's not on the board even. Oh, he just sat down. Oh, nahi, never mind. Went to get a glass of water.
By the way, Arjun, we don't have a single Indian in the world top 10 live ratings right now, which is such a big surprise. If Arjun were to beat Magnus, okay, it's a tough one. Drop me 1 point milega, but I think, by the way, Arjun is almost 100 points behind Magnus, right? That is crazy. But okay, if Arjun were to beat Magnus, he will straight away go to world number 8. So there's an opportunity technically, on paper, Sahaj bhai, to kind of enter the world top 10 today.
Yeah, draw पे नहीं होगा I think. Draw
हाँ,
पे भी
draw पे
वही
नहीं
से आगे तो नहीं जाओगे आप, but yeah, win पे possible for sure. Win पे
And
possible for sure. But yeah,
and
yeah, we shouldn't even be discussed. But ratings only matter when the tournament finishes. और उससे पहले like not really a big difference. And okay, look at this. He
okay.
plays knight e6.
Ooh, I like that move because आपने d4 पे थोड़ा pressure डाला, so ties my knight on e2 down a bit. If you were to push any of your pawns, like d5 पे मुझे c5 square मिल रहा है, and you know it restrains white's pawns a bit. But what if I just play rook a b1? Like, what is black's plan now? Like knight e6 खेल दिया, but what's my next move as black, सहज भाई? I feel like मैंने improve कर लिया जितना मैं कर सकता था.
I think knight e6 is one of those filler moves, and maybe he's planning rook h c8 next. Now cb5 ka plan looks more logical, as the rook will be targeting the c4 pawn. But you can argue that when you play rook c8, now white can also play rook c1, and okay, pawn takes, but then I can capture with the a pawn and defending my c4 pawn there. So वही है, मतलब I think uncomfortable position है black के लिए. Ideally you want to gain some space, try to equalize as quickly as possible, and it's that feeling of being uncomfortable that is Magnus's advantage pretty much. If Arjun does not feel uncomfortable here, he's not worse basically.
Bhai, if there was anybody sitting apart from Magnus, Arjun would not be feeling uncomfortable. I feel like it's more to do with the person than the position. बंदा सामने जब मैग्नस बैठा, मैग्नस वेरी इन जनरल मैग्नस वेरी
बट
टॉल.
अर्जुन को थोड़ी ना वो फील होता होगा उतना. अर्जुन हैज डिफीटेड हिम मेनी टाइम्स. वो भी ब्लैक से 19 चाल में आ रहा है भाई उसने उसको.
But bishop h6 is a sign he felt
Or
that said
also
by.
when you save something like that, like FNH pawns against the goat of chess, I mean you also start to feel like, okay, like I'm extremely special.
No,
Like
yeah,
so
yeah.
you,
I'm
I think वो
sure Arjun
Magnus
knows
effect
that.
अर्जुन अब तो नहीं feel करेगा I think.
But bishop h6 was the Sahaj by the problem for me. Like that move kind of showed he was trying to force a draw somehow. That's my worry. Hopefully he now just kind of plays the best moves, but oof, this is not going to be easy. By the way, Magnus Carlsen, of course, will be playing Norway chess also, जहाँ पे गुकेश और प्रग से खेलेंगे. So within 1 month, we're gonna have Magnus play classical chess against all the top three Indians, Sahaj bhai.
Arey, amazing, amazing, amazing. That is something we don't get to say often because Magnus इतना खेलता ही नहीं है भाई. But
Yeah.
love to see. Also, would love to see like how what would be the rating change. You know, we are in the
Oof.
first day of the month, and at the end of May, Magnus could either be 2850 or could be very close to the 2800 level because it's a like rating deflation हुआ है of course. So the
Huh.
only 2800 player in the world right now is playing in front of you.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I would love to see Magnus gain a ton of rating, like 286, 2870 पहुंच जाए, ताकि he's also tempted to kind of gain more and reach 2900, which, by the way, Chad, I don't know if you remember, Magnus एक बार publicly बोला था कि I'm gonna try and chase down that 2900 goal. Like he publicly said it as his goal, but then it couldn't happen because of rating deflation. And of course, like he did come very close. I think 2889, right, was the highest live rating he had, Sahaj Bhai, which was like 80 points ahead of everybody else.
No, no,
2889. I
no.
mean,
It was never 80 points. I think when he was 2889, Fabi was around 2840, if I'm not mistaken, 2830, something like this.
but was
So it was
he really at that point?
इतना लंबा 80 points तो नहीं था, I think, फर्क.
Hmm.
That's, I think, a lot. But I could be wrong. Chat, do correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Magnus की 2900 rapid में हुई है, if I'm not mistaken, and Blitz में तो 22986 हुई है उसकी, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And
Yep.
freestyle में
Yep.
भी 2900 है उसकी rating. So he
Yep.
has achieved that goal, but just not in classical chess.
Yep. Was very close. Magnus Rapid 293. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Gukesh almost won Norway Chess last year. I don't think so, actually. He did defeat Magnus. He played that great game. But I think Magnus had a comfortable win in overall standings at the end. It wasn't like super close. Um, yep, only 20th player in the world. हमारे editors कह रहे हैं कि भाई crazy है.
Yep. Absolutely. So now it's up to Magnus. By the way, 11-minute difference, 40 minutes for the goat of chess to play Rook B1, I'm guessing, and Rook HC1 are the two moves that you can consider. And if somewhere you're planning to take on C6, enter the rook via to B7, give a check, and okay, you can play on the space that you have with the white pieces. But Magnus is thinking, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Is for Stockfish knows कि best चाल रुक भी हुआ ना, it will just play it. Like Magnus has to think कि practically सबसे ज़्यादा मुश्किल क्या होगा खेलना.
हाँ.
That's what makes Magnus more dangerous.
Like rook b1 पे he knows कि Arjun is gonna put the rook on b8. So he knows कि Arjun को likely best चाल पता है. Is there something else which will make it more difficult for Arjun to find the best move, even if that move is not as strong as rook b1? So Magnus considering all options, of course, going very deep into his calculations. That's why often people ask कि grandmaster कितना deep calculate कर सकता है, and of course the answer is as deep as he wants. But is position में specifically, how deep do you think Magnus Carlsen is going in his calculations? Is he kind of trusting his intuition, or is he going very deep?
I think mostly you're trusting your intuition and you're doing like 3-4 moves of calculation. Like maybe not 3-4 moves भी ज़्यादा हो गया. Like मैं 2-3 moves से ज़्यादा नहीं जाऊँगा. You do like deep calculation and maybe 1 or 2 instances where your intuition says कि यार ठीक है यहाँ पे थोड़ा और करना चाहिए, but आप हर जगह वो 10 चालें नहीं करोगे calculate. And I think this is a subject that a lot of, let's say, not elite players suffer, where they're not sure where to think more, where to think less.
Um, yeah, by the
चैट
way,
में
rook
तो
b1.
भाई सचिन भाई आप क्या saying some funny things.
मैंने पढ़ा भी नहीं, I missed it, but I think अच्छा. No, by the way, Magnus did play rook a b1, the best move, and I'm expecting one of the rooks to hop onto the b8 square very, very quickly. वो b file control करनी है. For example, I just played king c7 just to test it out, and apparently that's not a nice move. Gives white a slight edge after like rook at c1 or knight f4. So you have to bring one of the rooks to the b8 square, and then white can continue playing h4 and so on. So the
Yeah.
trauma is real, सहज भाई.
So
ये तो
basically
बहुत
like
लंबी गेम होगी.
तो रुक बी वन रुक बी एट तो समझ आ रहा है, कुछ स्टेक्स पे रुक बी1 रुक बी7 चेक नहीं है
हाँ.
आपके पास. आई विल गो रुक एच सी1, यू विल गो रुक एच सी8 एज वेल. ठीक है. अब इसके
हाँ,
बाद वाइट खेलता है समथिंग लाइक h4. So this is basically where the problem begins, and this is probably why Arjun is thinking, and what Magnus was thinking. यहाँ पे black क्या चलेगा? रुक आपने निकाल लिया, दोनों रुक्स निकाल लिए, knights आपके अच्छे जगह पे हैं. Now what? Like what? How do you make progress in a position like this? Is the question. This is where I think a lot of players will make a mistake. Like
agreed.
for example, it's very funny actually, but here rook c7 is just losing for black because pawn takes c6, and you cannot capture this with either. Neither, I think. If you
Wow.
capture with the rook, there's d5. Capture with the pawn, there's rook b8 hanging.
And I was thinking, for example, instead of rook c7, like, can I play a5, basically, just kind of stopping that a pawn, gaining some space. But then there is c5, apparently.
It's also a
And
very, very nice like nuance here, and which I see as well. C5, by the way, is a very strong move too, but you can also takes and play a5 bhai. That's very good. Like gaining more
oh, you're
space.
right. You're right. You're right. Maybe I can just play c5. Like, that's the only way. Yeah? Otherwise, rook b6,
Hmm.
c5 aa gaya to will be very tough. But after a5, white can just play c5, apparently. And if you take, knight takes, pawn takes, and rook endgame, one knight on the board. But somehow this is a lot of pressure. Yeah. Any endgame looks worse. And rook यहाँ पे कर क्या रहे हैं c8 पे now? Like, I'm a bit, king d7 पे completely open on the d file as well. So मैग्नस निकालेगा भाई यहाँ पे कुछ ना कुछ गेम में.
Yeah, for sure. But Magnus का time मतलब ठीक है 11 मिनट का difference. Sorry, 10 मिनट का difference. I mean, is not that bad. That's actually works in Arjun's favor. But 40 moves के बाद आधा घंटा मिलेगा, right?
Hmm.
So we are on
Yes.
move 21. So 19 more moves to be played in under 40 minutes. I think Magnus is fine. Magnus is not. Also 30 seconds का increment भी है यहाँ पे. So I think he's fine.
And great point by Mr. Tech Kunji. बिल्कुल 97.8 accuracy मैग्नस की, 97.8 अर्जुन की. नेक टू नेक चल रहा है. But even then, white is slightly better. That tells you Magnus utilizing the advantage of the white pieces to its maximum. And कोई पूछ रहा है, who is the next chess prodigy from Norway? Shitish भाई पूछ रहे हैं. Sahil bhai, that's a very good question. I think we discussed this earlier once. कि विशी सर के आते ही we saw so many prodigies. In fact, Gokesh, Parag, Vaishali, all these youngsters attended the Magnus Vichy World Championship in Chennai. We've not seen like a prodigy out from Norway. Like, do you know of any names like that might be big names in the future from Norway?
Um,
No,
I'm
like there's
trying
no
to
name that comes
think.
to mind, I think.
Mm, I'm sure there is. I think there's Elham, if I'm not mistaken. There is someone, but not like Magnus level yet.
Hmm.
I'm sure there is someone though. I'm gonna try and
Aryan
take a
Pal is
look.
older. I don't think he would be counted as a youngster. Like Haaland
Elham
तो
is
नहीं है.
like Elham is 2005 born, no? Like 2576, 2007 born.
But okay, it's still
ठीक है.
like
That's I think very good, no?
मार्टिन ओडगार्ड कह रहे हैं कार्तिक जी.
There is Hog Havard as well, who's 2010 born and he's 2000 and he's 2400.
Hmm.
I mean,
But
there are
still,
players, but भाई मतलब मैग्नस लेवल के प्लेयर्स या वो जो प्रोडिजी होता है वो मतलब लाखों में से एक निकलता है तो लाइक यू नीड टू गिव इट टाइम.
हाँ, ट्रू ट्रू.
करोड़ों में से मैग्नस तो खैर करोड़ों में से एक बट लेकिन बाकी जो प्रोडिजीज कह रहे हैं वो भी लाखों में से एक निकलती है.
कोई कह रहा है नेक्स्ट prodigy will be Magnus's son. I'm not sure about that one. Um, but yeah, okay, Magnus chilling by the way, having his coffee. रुके B1 के बाद Arjun under pressure, time difference down to now just what, like 6 minutes actually. So time difference कम होता हुआ as we expected. Uh,
भाई जो लोग ओल्डेगार्ड कह रहे हैं मैं हॉग हवार्ड की बात कर रहा था ओल्डेगार्ड की बात नहीं कर रहा था भाई. ही इज रैंक्ड 247 240 समथिंग 2432 he is and he's ranked 20th in Norway right now 2010 born. That's I think pretty good.
कोई कह रहा है साहिल टिकू is the oldest prodigy. Prodigy. Yes, the 33-year-old prodigy. What will I do when I grow up? Let's figure it out. Meanwhile, Sahaj bhai.
ऑल्सो भाई
Okay.
आई थिंक किसी
हाँ,
को ना प्रोडिजी बनने के लिए जो टॉप का प्लेयर रहता है ना वो एक्टिव नहीं होना चाहिए बिकॉज नहीं तो उनके ऑरा में ही रहते हो आप सारा टाइम. लाइक आप सोचो
हाँ,
जो भी नए प्लेयर्स आते हैं जैसे टर्की से अभी एक आया, क्यों मतलब एर्दोमस जैसा टैलेंट में भी होगा बट लेकिन वो जगह किसी ने अभी तक ली नहीं है एटलीस्ट टर्की में. तो then newer players are allowed to develop in that. जब तक
But
मैग्नस
also
खेल रहा है
like
भाई बहुत मुश्किल है मैग्नस.
I
यू हैव टू बी लकी के कोई प्रोडिजी हो 13-14 साल का जो 2300-2400 की रेटिंग में और उसी टाइम पे मैग्नस रिटायर करे और वो मैग्नस उसको टेकअप करे एंड देन
हाँ,
that would be ideal. Like you know
that's
that
a
kid is gonna go very high.
very good point, because when Vichy Magnus World Championship happened in India, these guys were already 23, 2400, right? Like these youngsters, at
Exactly.
least 2000 plus the. So that journey from 2100, 2200 to let's say 2700 makes sense. Like it spanned these many years. But for somebody who's like, Abhi Magnus World Champion bana hai, like it's going to take much longer because they might not have had, some 2300 youngster at that point. So yeah, it's going to happen at some point. By the way, yes, Edis Gurel also a youngster, but right now
Yeah.
the guy dominating the headlines is Erdogmus Sahaj Bhai, and he's here.
100%. And of course, Adis Gurel is I think an insane talent as well. But I'm talking about older players from Turkey who are like, let's say, top 5 in the world or top 10. I'm not sure if there are many or if there are any for that matter. And I think that
Yeah.
really affects a player's growth. आप देखो फिरोजा जैसे ईरान से था पहले, right? Like there is no one, no player who actually developed from there prior to that. But because फिरोजा था उसके बाद परहम आया, उसके बाद अमिन तब आया and so on and so on and so on. But अब अगर ये लोग डोमिनेंट रहेंगे तो और प्लेयर्स के लिए मतलब डेवलप होना जब वो सारे स्पॉट्स फिल हो जाएंगे ना, दैट विल बी वेरी डिफिकल्ट. सो नाउ
Yeah.
उज्बेकिस्तान का आई थिंक 1 या 2 स्पॉट्स और बचे हैं भाई. लाइक मे बी ओलंपियाड का 4th and 5th स्पॉट बचा हुआ है, वो अगर एक बार फेल हो गया तो वेरी डिफिकल्ट है. इंडिया में जैसे अगर आपको ओलंपियाड खेलना, आपको लग रहा है टॉप 5 प्लेयर्स या टॉप 10 प्लेयर्स के अलावा कोई ओलंपियाड के बारे में सोचता भी है?
Bhai, I literally saw a tweet abhi by some random tweet, I don't know who it was, ki, if any companies want to sponsor, they're looking for names. ये है टॉप 30 इंडियन प्लेयर्स लाइक एंड इसमें सारे सुपर जीएम्स भरे हुए हैं. मैंने लिखा टॉप 500 भी कंसिडर कर सकते हैं क्या है, मैं भी घुस जाऊंगा अंदर. लाइक दैट टेल्स यू लाइक इंडियन चेस इज एट इट्स पीक, इट्स ग्रोइंग रैपिडली एंड बहुत सारे यंगस्टर्स चैट. आई थिंक Pranesh is now rising up the ranks, yeah. So it's gonna be exciting as well. He played very well in the last event as well. By the way, see, okay, that's a committal move, Sahaj bhai. That has to change the valuation in some way.
It does, and not for the best for Arjun. So there are two moves here, and I'll tell you the good news first. The good news is that d5 is not very good for Magnus, which looks more logical. But the bad news is, भाई अगर उसने pawn takes pawn मार दिया, then उसके बाद there is a big problem. Knight takes, pawn takes, knight c3, and white's knight is amazing. White has great activity on or space on the queen side, but black does not. भाई मैं डर गया 1 सेकंड के लिए. साक्टिक को
एक
भाई ऐसा
कारण
उठ
की
कैसे?
वजह से ये फोटो मेरे पीछे है भाई. मैग्नस
अरे
द गोट भाई.
ब्यूटीफुल ब्यूटीफल
भाई
ब्यूटीफल.
मतलब एक कारण की वजह से मैंने फोटो पीछे रखी है. बिकॉज C5 आई कैन गारंटी यू चैट देयर इज नो वे ऑन अर्थ अर्जुन प्ले दिस अगेंस्ट एनीबडी एल्स इन द वर्ल्ड. नहीं होने वाला भाई, हो ही नहीं सकता भाई. लाइक C5 इज सच अ कमिटल मूव एंड सेज भाई द किंग इज ऑन D7. Like, it just makes logical sense for me to just open the D file while your king is on D7. So DC5 feels natural. Maybe I'm wrong, but like
No,
it looks extremely
100%,
risky.
but this is the same argument. Yeah, you saw the move and then you kind of justify it. But if you don't see the move, maybe you will have different. Maybe you will say, okay, D5 में I'm getting more space. Maybe you will say, black तो already cramped था. तो ब्लैक अभी और क्रैम्प्ड हो रहा है आफ्टर अ मूव लाइक d5. मे बी यू विल से मैंने पढ़ा था कि स्पेस में यू शुड नेवर ट्रेड पीसेस और नेवर ट्रेड पॉन. सो इट्स लाइक यू कैन आल्सो जस्टिफाई अ मूव लाइक d5 एज वेल.
When you said space, I thought आप space बाहर चले गए भाई.
अरे
Elon Musk वाला space.
but like
Sorry, my bad.
it's easy to justify I think afterwards, but we'll see. c5 not really that bad of a move. I would say it's slightly worse according to the bar at least, but pawn takes pawn के बाद position uncomfortable तो लग रही है भाई. That
So
much
let's
I
go
can
deeper.
say.
So now D takes C5. I think that looks logical at least. Like Magnus will find it, is my understanding. Now pawn takes C5 is of course abysmal because you give the E5 square comes with check. You never even want to consider that move. So you take with the knight, right? That's the understanding. Now I take on C5, let's say. I do have rook h d1 as an option, but let's say I just take on C5 because the engine screams it's the best move. And now somehow like rook h d1 is tempting. Rook b d1 is tempting, knight c3 is tempting, a5 is tempting, h4 is tempting. Like the only choice of Magnus is how does he want to squeeze this game, I feel.
And also with a move like knight c3, which I love, by the way, like you're forever telling Arjun that you can never move this knight from f6. The moment you move
Yeah.
it away, I have knight d5, and that knight will just be a legend. In fact, black only has one move here, otherwise he's clearly worse, and that move is rook a d8. So
Wow.
difficult journey ahead for India number one.
By the way, maybe just a 30-second, escapade from this game because Zhu Jiner has just blundered the game away. And
What?
she's blundered an entire piece. And I mean, what? Sehaj bhai, what
पीस
is
तो नहीं
this?
है, पीस तो नहीं है। ओ भाई, she missed queen d3 के बाद
Ah,
queen b2 मर रहा है। But wait, what did he miss? What she said? But I'm sorry,
okay,
but that seems too simple to miss. I'm
wait,
not sure I understand this.
wait,
Did
what
she
is
miss?
this?
I don't even understand. How do you miss rook c8 and queen? Did she just not see the rook is coming to c8? Or but how do you? मैं 97 और किस लिए खेलूंगा rook c8 नहीं तो? But usually when top players like Zujin like Zujin make a mistake, it's because they think something is right and then they overlook something, right? ऐसा तो नहीं कि अपने idea miss कर देगा. I'm very excited to see what did she miss here because B2 is hanging and
Ah,
D4 is hanging.
I found it. Maybe she wanted to play queen b3, Sehaj bhai. Because
But
queen
then
d4, there's queen b7 attacking knight and rook. But now there's simply rook c2. Maybe that's what she missed. I don't know. I'm kind of guessing, of
why
course.
even rook e8 and queen king f8? No, that's also should be winning.
True.
I'm really maybe unless after queen b3 she was thinking queen d4 nahi dekha, but queen b3 also how why will you allow this?
Wow.
It makes no sense to me.
By and I must point out, Zhu Jiner had a horrible Prague Masters. Like she definitely made a bunch of blunders. Now, candidates was kind of if and buddy for her, but she did spoil many winning positions, Sahaj Bhai. So clearly, she's having some issues with tactical play, right? Because she could have literally finished the candidates event in the first half if she converted all her winning
Yeah,
positions.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, she's an exceptionally strong player. That's why it's so surprising. Maybe it's that, playing someone like Nodirbek could have a effect on you because I'm sure, like, I can remember my time when I was playing against Wang Hao when he was 27-30. So we cannot Nodirbek, I'm sure the effect will be bigger.
Yeah.
But, against Wang Hao, I remember when I was playing 27-30 player. I mean, मैं हर move को ऐसे over analyze कर रहा था. Like, I was not playing like myself because I feel like first time you play a player of this level, it can really affect um
Yeah.
your play. Ah, I see. I see. Tikku bhai, I think she thought about
Hi.
no.
Sorry
I
भाई
was
मेरे
thinking
बैंक का नाम बोला आपने तो मैंने
bhai,
कहा
I
मैं
thought queen h3 and maybe queen b2 and knight e6 is what she thought, but वो भी नहीं चल रहा भाई. ये भी lost है. I mean, just a disclaimer chat, queen takes d4 मर रहा है यहाँ पे, but we're trying to
हाँ
figure
वही
out what did Zhu Jiner miss. We're trying to figure out.
Yeah. So basically, the game is over. I think we might even expect resignation in the next 5 minutes from Zuzhina. So Nodirbek about to win his first game, and with this win, he's going to gain around. I think he's like 220 points. He's going to gain around. I think 2 points from this. So he's going to go to 2782, moving towards the world number 3 spot, chasing Caruana. So good start for Nodirbek, by the way. Everybody's going to target Zuzhina, of course. But this was a horrific blunder, Saj bhai. Totally unexpected.
I mean, the position is already pretty bad for Zhu Jiner. Like, it's already -1 or something. And but I don't understand. Rook c8 तो मेरा plan ही है. तो how, like, something doesn't make sense. Do you think
Yeah.
she touched the wrong piece or like what
But
could it be?
I would
Because here
still put it
queen
anywhere
d2.
else. No, like I would put the knight on g3 maybe, at least not blunder the piece.
हाँ,
Not
मतलब
g3, like
piece तो
maybe
नहीं
some
है
other
भाई
square.
queen b2 में. I mean, it's just like a piece
Uh,
like blunder.
by the way,
But yeah,
queen
very
d2.
strange.
Wait, queen d2 played. And queen b2 just takes the pawn.
Exactly.
Okay, this is objectively lost, I think, because c2, a4, everything is hanging. Okay, so let's go back to Arjun. I think a tough game for Zujina there, also behind the clock. Hard to save this one. By the look at this. Oh, what? Magnus played d5? What? He didn't take on c5.
Firstly, I told you okay, it's very hard to justify moves like this to yourself. And secondly, bhai, I'm not so sure if this is like looking very comfortable either for Arjun. Bhai. Knight G3, for example. And would you believe me if I told you H4 is like almost losing for you
I
as
literally
black?
was
Would you
looking at the
believe
same
me this?
line.
Like,
I was
yeah.
literally looking at the same thing, Sej. I have it on my screen right now. Knight takes, pawn takes, and it's a very much better for Magnus.
By crazy H4 just up chat. I mean, if I was honest with you, like, okay, let's say you're playing a chess match here, you're playing bullet, you're playing blitz, whatever. Your opponent plays knight g3. How many of you are playing h4 here? Like, I will raise my hand. 100%. No
One
question.
second,
I will
yeah,
play h4 here.
yeah,
Huh?
yeah. One
Chat,
second, where
like,
you will play, yeah.
in 1 second you'll play h4 and it's almost losing. Crazy.
Wow. It's surprising, chat. Basically, so DC5 was the best move, but D5 basically, I think, Sejai, coming back to your point that we discussed earlier, right? Magnus, like Stockfish, might just play DC5 here. Magnus is basically saying, okay, maybe he also understands that DC5 might be objectively better, but maybe it opens up too many lines for a rook trade. So he thinks practically for Arjun, it's harder to handle D5. Maybe that's the thought process for Magnus.
Could be, could very well be. Could very well be, but let's see what happens. Why this looks, um, yeah, this looks troubling to say the
Exciting.
least.
I would say exciting. A challenge for both players. And Knight G7, Arjun, by the way, it's a 2 minute से कम में खेला. Is there any other option apart from Knight G3, Sahaj, bhai, that you'll consider? Like maybe Knight C3 just to get to E4 anyways, or H4 first to prevent H4 as black? Because Magnus also has to see ki bhai H4 is not a good move for black, which is hard. Sometimes you ignore it by default, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Knight g3 हो सकता है कि उसको ना दिखे इस पोजीशन में, but hard to say. Magnus right now is thinking a bit weird that Magnus is thinking after a move like d5, because I thought that d5 के बाद his intentions were pretty clear and he would have made the move pretty fast. But Tiku bhai, Magnus भी उतना consistent नहीं था. In the previous yes, granted he was playing with an iPad and he didn't have time to prepare and all of those things. I understand that, but कुछ moments में ऐसा लग रहा था कि like older Magnus would have like played like much more like without giving any chances. But maybe that could carry on to this tournament. You never know.
Possible. I think results do matter. Duda's do game, like he lost that match against Duda, by the way, a great comeback. So definitely possible. And also a point by somebody in the chat ki, like it's hard when a 2500 women player plays against a elite GM. It's hard to kind of put up a challenge. I think वो short term vision hai. I would say long term vision mein, I would highly suggest looking at Vaishali's performance during Chennai GM in 2025. She finished bottom of the table, had won out of 9 points, and it wasn't even as strong as this event. And I think I heard it somewhere. She
I
said, or she didn't
think
want to
you
play.
cannot say that cannot say that for anyone who is 2600. Like 2600
हाँ
2600 के लिए कुछ भी unfair नहीं है मेरे हिसाब से. Like 2600 is
हाँ and
capable of beating anyone, like and holding their own against anyone. Okay, you can argue okay, maybe they don't have as much support, but I'm
हाँ
sure Zhu Jiner being like, for sure she gets she would get more support than a normal 2600 for sure.
no 100%. And I think also, like for example, even if you lose that event, ऐसे टॉप प्लेयर से खेलने का जो एक्सपीरियंस है ना, it's
Hmm.
gonna help Zhu Jiner for the next 2 years, man. Like Divya, by the way, also won the World Cup, but she had a horrible Tata Steel Challengers. She had a horrible another event before that, I think, where she was the one of the weakest seeds. So I think it's very common. You play a strong event, you get annihilated there, but then you have so much learning from that event because you get crushed on so many aspects of your game, and then you improve. It's like वो super गोकू को वो it's like upgrading yourself with Super Saiyan mode basically, because you get beaten up
Mhm.
so badly. Then when you recover, you kind of gain a lot of strength as a chess player.
100%. And chat mein chess bars is saying, Sahaj bhai, all chess players have been taught that rooks belong on the open file, but why is either Magnus and Arjun not doing it? So basically इसे एक quote याद आता है मुझे, which is के when you learn chess, you kind of learn the rules, but when you study chess at a higher level, you learn the exceptions of the rules. So in this scenario, yes, rooks do belong on an open file, but there are always exceptions. To be more technical, there was pawn takes pawn, black could take on cb5 and so on and so on. So this is an exception basically. And you will see whenever we look at top level games, there will always be exceptions.
By the way, Kshitij bhai, कह रहे हैं सस्ते इंजन कह रहे हैं 0.0. Of course, I think a supercomputer might tell you it's 0.0, but दोनों players के दिमाग में 100% it's not 0.0. I feel like look at the knights, by the way, on g7 f6. Not very happy. White का एक rook developed there. It's also white to play. That matters because I can, for example, put my rook on e1 or play knight g3, knight c3 as we discussed. So even putting more pressure on black. And ये d6 pawn and white का space बहुत ज़्यादा है सहज भाई. Like any end game is a nightmare for black to play. Like piece exchange, rook end game nightmare हो सकती है, knight end game nightmare हो सकती है, king pawn end game could be a nightmare in some cases. It's very hard to play as black practically.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, look at this. He goes a5, advancing on the queen side, maybe creating some a6 or b6, but it's good to have this option, good to create some pressure. Of course, black should be very careful before playing b6 or a6 because white capture kar sakta hai, and then one of the files becomes open. So tough decision ahead for Arjun. Knight f5 maybe looks the most logical. Tikku bhai, what do you think about this move?
Yeah, knight f5 especially जब हमें पता है कि भाई जब पता है कि knight g3 is a killer move, like knight f5 comes to mind automatically now. उसको रोकने के लिए I was also wondering if h4 is an option to do the same, but somehow the bar doesn't love it. Yeah, it says white can now, if you play h4 as black with the same idea to prevent knight g3, white can now go g4, जो विशी सर का original plan था. You can start pushing the g pawn now, and suddenly that is much better for white. So knight f5, one of the only good moves in the position. और क्या खेलोगे सर? ऐसा कोई मूवी नहीं दिख रही वहां पे, rook e8, yeah,
तो
as a
नाइट
second move.
g7 पे गया, ये जो नाइट g7 पे जो उसने c5 खेला, थिंक अबाउट, ही वाज थिंकिंग अबाउट द नाइट एज वेल, नो, ही वाज थिंकिंग कि भाई नाइट को
Yeah,
किधर रखूं मैं इसके बाद एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट, एंड ही सेड ओके लेट्स प्ले c5 एंड पुट द नाइट ऑन g7. नाउ व्हाई डिड ही डू दैट? He wanted to play knight f5, so I'm
yeah.
guessing that should be the next move.
Yep. Hopefully that is. He does put the knight there. Also, you have potential control over the d4 square. अगर यहाँ e2 वाला knight हिलता है, so at least एक black का piece तो active रहेगा. That's helpful. Sahaj, I have a question in chat also. Like I think a thought process. Let's say कि दोनों rooks exchange हो जाते हैं यहाँ पे. Who benefits more, white or black?
It's a very good question, but probably right now black. But if it's one rook, then maybe white. Like I think because I'm thinking about it in terms of chess, like अगर हम strategy की बात करें यहाँ पे, तो it feels like ब्लैक को किंग साइड पे भी बचाना पड़ेगा, क्वीन साइड पे भी बचाना पड़ेगा. तो एक जगह रुक दो, एक जगह दोनों रुक रख दिया आपने, एक वो बचाएगा एक ये बचाएगा, एक रुक कर दिया अगर मैंने उसकी बजाय, तो मे बी द रुक कैन स्ट्रगल. एंड किंग साइड पे प्रेशर ऑफ कोर्स इज हैपनिंग विद h4 एंड नाइट कमिंग टू g5 अटैकिंग द f7 pawn, so some rook would have to defend this. Then on the queen side you can play a6 b6 and some sack on b6, or you can play b6 a6, I don't know, some kind of pressure तो है definitely queen side पे. So based on these two, I think एक change कर लेना चाहिए.
Agreed. I also have a similar feeling. I think अगर दोनों को exchange हो गए, maybe white doesn't have enough of targets right now to create genuine winning chances. It might just be more space for white, but just optical advantage and not really real advantage. So दोनों को exchange नहीं करने चाहिए right now. And maybe one rook can be beneficial because black का counterplay पूरा खत्म हो जाएगा. There'll be no counterplay on the e file, and white can just take his time as Magnus usually does. By the way, rook a e8 is what he chose. I thought rook h e8 खेलेंगे. Is there a difference है भाई? दोनों कौन सा rook e8 रखना चाहिए? It's not clear, right?
You know, this is an ever long question in in chess, Tikku bhai. I'm sure like you've had like 100 games where you've wondered कि दोनों रुक आ सकते हैं, कौन सा रुक यार, मतलब ऐसा लग रहा है कभी फ्यूचर में जाके ये रुक का कुछ रोल तो रहेगा. नहीं नहीं यार, इस रुक का भी,
हाँ.
कभी उसने b6 खेल दिया तो कभी मुझे b6 का भी खेलना पड़ा है, तो इट्स लाइक एट द एंड आई फील ऑल चेस प्लेयर जस्ट like they like flip a coin in their head and they just choose, yeah. भाई कुछ तो खेलना पड़ेगा आपको एंड में, and this is what it feels like to me.
Agreed. And I think वहीं पे intuition काम आती है. I think that's why Magnus is so strong. His intuition about such decisions is very, very good. And okay, we did not play knight f5 though. Is knight g3 still an option? Maybe it's not now because h4 के बाद I can't go knight e4 सहज भाई. So it's also kind of preventing knight g3.
So knight g3, h4, knight e4 is not possible because a rook is putting pressure here. So knight takes, rook takes, will just lose a pawn. Nice move, actually. Nice find. So maybe white should also go rook e1 then. And I mean, then again, a ever long question for Magnus also, भाई. चलो, chat आपसे question करता हूँ ये. So, like now you know, I'll tell you the preset of like what's going on. So basically, Magnus is trying to push, and Arjun has just played rook e8. You know that Magnus is trying to put pressure on Arjun. Just based on chess strategy alone, which rook is better, h1 or b1 for you?
Good question.
Just based on your instinct, what do you think? Because there is, I think here there is a right answer.
हाँ, yeah, yeah. गुड क्वेश्चन एक्चुअली, बिकॉज कई बार चैट होता है ना, जैसे लूडो अगर आप खेले हो कभी जिंदगी में, सो कई बार आपकी एक गीटी निकल चुकी है, यू नो, लाइक मतलब इट्स काइंड ऑफ एडवांस्ड बिट. सो कई बार दूसरे वाला अगर 6 आ जाए तो दूसरे को भी निकाल के रख लो. लेट्स जस्ट नॉट पुट ऑल आवर लूडोस इन वन बास्केट. सेज भाई, व्हाट डू यू थिंक?
ये वाली बढ़िया थी भाई. अरे न्यू मंथ, लेट्स गो. न्यू मंथ, न्यू पेज.
मे फर्स्ट. इस महीने बहुत स्ट्रीम है सहज भाई, लगता है बहुत पेज भर जाएंगे.
So Jad, what Tikubai says also, I think, is just an additional point to the situation. But I feel a lot of people are saying rook b1 वाला touch होना चाहिए. But I think you would be wrong here, Chad, because अगर जिस side से भी आप pressure डालते हो ना, एंड यू कैन सी कि पोजिशन इज सो सिमेट्रिकल, लाइक दोनों के पास घोड़े हैं, दोनों के पास वही सेम पॉन्स हैं, सेम फाइल पे पॉन्स हैं, सेम तरह के रुक्स हैं, सब कुछ सेम है. तो अगर जिस साइड से भी आप प्रेशर डालते हो, उस साइड को हमेशा जितना ज़्यादा आप इम्बैलेंस क्रिएट कर सकते हो उतना बेटर है. तो अगर आप ब्लैक ये कर रहा है तो आप कॉपी नहीं कर सकते, आपको उसके थोड़ा सा अगेंस्ट जाना जरूरी है रुक एच1, जस्ट टू हैव अ विनिंग चांस. क्योंकि रुक b1 पे रहेगा, पोजीशन सिमेट्रिकल नहीं रहेगी, तो जीतने के चांसेस ज़्यादा रहेंगे. दैट्स हाउ आई वुड सी दिस.
एक बंदा कहता है, I'd rather resign. Bro, if Magnus is sitting in front of us, all of us will resign by. Don't worry, we're on the same boat. By the way, Magnus का एक ही इश्यू मुझे हल्का सा लग रहा है, and maybe this is because of only one reason कि Magnus खेलते नहीं है क्लासिकल चेस उतना. His time, Sahej bhai. Usually I would expect Magnus to make quicker decisions in these moments, but he's taking his time, and अभी भी somehow 14 मिनट पीछे अर्जुन से. Maybe this could be the saving grace for Arjun. Like maybe at some point, 5-6 moves down the line, like Magnus might need that time, but होगा नहीं उनके पास.
Could be, but it's a, like, let's say it's not very difficult for Magnus to play filler moves here. And yeah, it's possible that Magnus is not match fit right now. It's for sure it's possible because Magnus has not played chess for like almost a year now. नॉर्वे चेस के अलावा नॉर्वे चेस भी घर पे ही होता है भाई, तो you don't have that tournament वाली feeling. मैं जब दिल्ली ओपन खेलता था भाई, आई मीन इट वाज अ लवली टूर्नामेंट, बट वो टूर्नामेंट की फील नहीं आती थी क्योंकि घर से खेलते थे आप.
बट वो गुकेश ने फील लाई थी ना सहज भाई, वो टेबल का वो करके तो
हाँ
फील तो आ गई थी.
वो वाली फील वापस नहीं लानी है ना मैग्नस को.
हाँ. Yeah, will be interesting. Of course, Norway Chess starts this month as well, last week of May. उससे पहले भाई बहुत सारे इवेंट्स हैं, मजा आएगा. You will see, as you will see very soon. GCTV आने वाला है. But meanwhile, Magnus still thinking 24 minutes now. Time difference बढ़ता हुआ 15 मिनट हो चुका है. And there's this idea which the Indian loves and chat भी कह रही है, basically to just go a6 now. While this is usually want to keep options open, I do see an idea कि कल को एंड गेम में after a6 and b6 I could bring a knight to a4 and just take on b6 सहज भाई, and suddenly black को एक पीस वहां पीछे रखना पड़ेगा to defend this idea.
एक महान इंसान ने कहा था थ्रेट इज बेटर देन एग्जीक्यूशन. सो नाइट c3 सीधा खेल लो, a6 खेलने की क्या जरूरत है? वो तो क्या पता बाद में जाके b6 खेलना पड़े आपको. तो नाइट c3 नाइट a4 ले आओ, क्या पता आप नाइट टेक c5 चेक मार दो उधर इंस्टेड ऑफ प्लेइंग a6 एट एज वेल. सो लाइक डोंट मेक कमिटल मूव्स एज मैग्नस, लाइक बिकॉज देन इट मेक्स द डिफेंस इजी. क्योंकि अगर मैंने कमिट कर दिया फिर मैं वहीं टारगेट कर सकता हूँ उसके. जैसे अगर आप, ये बहुत सिंपल एग्जांपल है, पॉन b7 पे है तो मे बी देयर इज अ पॉसिबिलिटी नाइट a4 के बाद मैं नाइट से पॉन मार सकता हूँ. ठीक है, मेरे को नाइट मिल रहा है, आपको 2 पॉन्स मिल रहे हैं, इट्स एन इम्बैलेंस एंड आई कुड ट्राई टू विन दैट बिकॉज आई हैव कनेक्टेड पॉन्स. मे बी इट डज इट वर्क, मे बी इट डज, बट एक बार a6 b6 आ गया तो नाइट c5 का आइडिया तो बिल्कुल गया ना. तो कमिटल
So
मूव्स का
basically,
यही डिसएडवांटेज होता है कि यू कैनॉट बी फ्लेक्सिबल.
सो अगर आपको मैग्नस की तरह महान बनना है तो कमिटमेंट से दूर जाना है सहज भाई, आप कह रहे हैं मतलब बेसिक कमिटमेंट नहीं करनी।
एग्जैक्टली भाई, फ्लेक्सिबल रहो।
फ्लेक्सिबल रहना चाहिए, बी फ्लेक्सिबल। सलमान खान नाराज होंगे कि भाई एक बार कमिटमेंट कर दी थी उन्होंने, बट बी फ्लेक्सिबल यार, वापस ले लो कमिटमेंट भाई, डजंट मैटर।
तो आप
बट
भी, आपकी भी तो शादी अभी हुई थी।
नहीं नहीं, मतलब मैं चेस की बात कर रहा हूँ भाई, आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट
हाँ
चेस सहज
थोड़ा।
भाई, आई मीन
अच्छा अच्छा
मैं
अच्छा
कभी
अच्छा।
चेस से दूर जाता हूँ क्या? चैट तुम बताओ, कभी
हाँ
गया हो चेस से
सलमान
दूर?
खान के
फुल
सारे
फोकस।
चेस के गेम्स देखे हैं मैंने भाई, ब्यूटीफुल।
भाई सलमान खान का
मतलब
ग्रॉब ओपनिंग देखना
उस
भाई, G4 क्रेजी अटैक लाइक
जी,
क्रेजी,
या
G4 रुक
या
G1 रुक G3, इट्स इनसेन, एंड देन रुक कम्स टू H3 H7 पे मेट, इट्स क्रेजी
और
अटैक।
क्रेजी रुक H3 A3 पे आके H7 भाई, क्रेजी लाइक, ये तो स्टडी
है ना?
करना पड़ेगा भाई।
यप। सो ब्रश तोड़ेगा
आइडिया
नहीं,
जोक्स
ब्रश
तो
चिपकेगा
बहुत आ
भाई।
रहे हैं बट बोल नहीं सकता अभी।
नहीं नहीं, ब्रश नहीं टूटेंगे भाई, दंत मंजन करते रहे। मीनवाइल रुके E8 के बाद rook h1 I think is the logical move that makes sense, as we discussed एक rook exchange कर सकते हैं हम लोग, it's not going to spoil white's position. H4 of course was our move, but knight f5 आ रहा है अब, so I think that's going to tie down our rook to h1 for defense, and knight e3 is also an option for black. So अभी rook h1 का समय आ चुका है सहज भाई।
ये समय तो आ चुका है भाई, पर लेकिन समय मैग्नस के पास उतना बचा नहीं है, क्योंकि 17 मिनट मूव चल रहे हैं और 21 मिनट ही पड़े हैं। और अर्जुन तब से उसी पोज पे बैठा हुआ है, मतलब ही उसने बोर्ड पे देखा ही नहीं है भाई पिछले
भाई वो
20 मिनट।
बासी
ओ
ले
भाई
रहा
लुक एट दिस, A6 प्लेड।
भाई,
सॉरी
let's
चैट।
let's go Magnus, let's go, he's gonna plan for knight b2 a4 and knight takes b6 by, if I think if Arjun is losing, that's the plan he's gonna lose to.
Bye, but I'm, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of this because I feel, yeah, okay, for Arjun, I think his the defense just became a lot easier, I feel.
Hmm.
But let's see what he
Would you
goes for.
say the defense became cleaner, not easier?
I think
I don't know
easier,
if there's a
much.
easier, yeah? Okay, okay.
I think easier because knight c5 is not possible. I mean, if I'm defending this as black and you play a6 and b6, I have a sigh of relief. Wow, thank you for
Hmm.
committing that, because now I know there is no b6 on the board. Now I know queen side पे मुझे कहाँ कहाँ नजर रखनी है.
Hmm.
So I'm not so sure if this was necessary right now. But look at this. He does play knight c3. It seems too like one-sided this plan. Like एक बार knight अपने 3 चालें खेल के knight a4 लेके जाओगे तो king c7 एक move में मैं defend कर रहा हूँ.
So let's play the moves. Yeah, let's say knight f5, which I think Arjun will play. I don't see any. I literally no other moves I see in this position. Let's say I
Yeah.
play knight a4. What's black's best? Is king c7?
Knight a4 king c. Let's say knight f5, knight a4 king c7, whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, rook e3 भी है. It's not like आप knight b6 threaten कर रहे हो, by the way, because I have two
Ha,
rooks
true,
looking
true,
at the
true, true.
back rank. So just want to mention that as well. But I'm guessing in the long term he wants to go rook e1 and he just wants to trade off everything and that's it.
By the way, Sahaj bhai, I think just a 30-second, switch from this game, because एक और गेम में ब्लंडर हो चुका है। निल्स ग्रैंडेलियस ने गेम हाथ में दे दी है अपने ओपोनेंट के भाई। रुक d8 मिस्टेक, एंड नाउ बिशप b4 चेक, किंग e8 एंड टेक्स बिशप f8, just losing a bunch of pawns.
That's, I think, GG. Takes. Yeah, that's just lost, no? Oh, Andy Woodward is gonna win his first game. सिंपल है ये तो
Wow,
भाई, कितना सिंपल है ये तो.
wow भाई, ये
So
तो आई
I'm
थिंक
just
ही जस्ट थॉट कि
also it's the
ऑपोजिट
right
कलर
color, bhai. Right color pawn as well.
हाँ।
Chat, so always remember in any type of bishop endgame, you should always think about the right color and the wrong color. Like had this been a light bishop and black का भी light, black का dark होता, and then ये pawn उतना beneficial नहीं था आपके लिए क्योंकि right color नहीं था. तो ये हमेशा सोचना चाहिए इस बारे में. This is completely winning, I would say, for white.
Also शायद this is also tells you या कि never वो rules हम सीखते हैं कि opposite color bishops are kind of drawn, but this is not one of those cases. The rules can be broken and वो समझना बहुत जरूरी है. Nils shaking his head, by the way. I think he thought, okay, opposite color bishop endgame draw, like he just kind of went on intuition, and जब calculate करते हुए realize कि भाई this is just lost, and it's gonna be over. So दो result confirm होते हुए सहज भाई, let's jump back to Arjun Magnus, जहां पे knight f5 played after a 3-minute thing by Arjun Erigaisi, just played on the board, and now Magnus not at the seat with 21 minutes, time ticking down. भाई मतलब कितने रिजल्ट आने वाले भाई, दो तो कंफर्म हो गए ऑलरेडी.
100%, 100%. I think looks very, very difficult for Magnus. I mean, I don't know how is he going to put pressure. It also looks like his time is going to be a huge, huge issue. We do have a super chat, by the way. Thank you for the super chat. Madhur Kumar 5810 says, "Do you think this year WCC is one-sided for Uzbek?" So, I firstly no, absolutely not, and I'll tell you two different instances where at least I'm not going to talk about the world because I'm not sure what type of opinions they had, but I'll tell you from our eyes, from my eyes, and let's say my circle and a lot of people that I know in chess. There were two world championships. One was Vichy versus Boris Gelfand, जहाँ पे Vichy sir was a very heavy favorite, and we know that that match was the closest it could get. And the other match was Magnus versus Karyakin, जहाँ पे Magnus was dubbed as a very clear favorite over Karyakin, जहाँ पे Magnus was the only time in his life he was down in a match, only time in like in his life. So अगर आपकी ये predictions भी है ना कि ये player one sided रहेगा, ऐसा हुआ तो it will be the first time it ever happens in a game with 150 years of history, which is surprising for us as well. So but ऐसा होगा नहीं because match में सब अलग होता है.
Also, I think candidates में क्या है कि there's this pressure of you winning a bunch of games. To win the match, you have to be +5, for example, right? आपको 5+ games जीतनी है compared to equal score. So, just by odds, अगर 8 लोग खेल रहे हैं, there's a good chance somebody just races ahead of the field. अगर सुंदर ने जो किया वो crazy था, like it was one in a century kind of performance, but एक बंदा तो आगे निकलता ही है with a dominant performance, right? वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप में आधा पॉइंट का लीड भी इनफ है. सो व्हेन यू आर प्लेइंग द वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप, यूजुअली क्या होता है, पहला गेम कोई हारना नहीं चाहता सहज भाई. यू डोंट वांट टू बी द फर्स्ट गाय टू लूज अ गेम. So players often play it safe. Like in fact, Vichy Magnus, when the World Championship happened, like I remember, like Magnus played a slight error and Vichy had equality literally on move 8. But he didn't push as black because game 1 था, he didn't want to risk everything, he wanted to play it solid. So I think कहीं वही चीज होगी कि जब मैच में सिंदार और गुकेश खेल रहे होंगे, I think it's very hard. You don't need that +5 score, yeah, +4 score. So initiative, it's somehow more tempting to play it safe and not risk it all. That's my understanding.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. Chat में someone is saying Ding is higher rated than Guki. So like you are correct. By that logic, Kasparov is, higher rated than Magnus Carlsen right now. Like uska matlab, it doesn't prove anything, right? Because Ding didn't really play any classical chess besides the three or four rounds that I saw him playing against 2,500 players. But Gukesh has been active in the classical scene. I'm also by rating is like ऊपर नीचे जाती रहती है. So it's bad for the players to think about it. It's bad for the viewers to constantly ये ऊपर चला गया, नीचे चला गया. But I feel like we should just not think about it that much. We should not give it as much importance. Yeah, it's important for sure, but it shouldn't be the only thing we think about.
By the way, very important point. So knight d4 played Sejai, if you refresh the board, and वो जो कंपैरिजन है जो सेजवाई बता रहे स्टॉकफिश और मैग्नस के बीच, यहाँ पे स्टॉकफिश कहता है रुक टेक c8, रुक टेक c8, रुक e1, बेस्ट मूव.
हाँ.
Now will Magnus do this? I mean possible, because now there's a weakness on b6, but I doubt it. He will likely try to create one more weakness maybe.
By Magnus has to think this position is completely winning for him to do that.
See, he doesn't do
he
it.
Doesn't play
do
it h4. Yeah,
Exactly. So I think Magnus going for not the best move because he thinks that's still the better practical try. So वहीं पे आता है वो logic कि भाई Stockfish sometimes might not play the best practical move and might be tougher to beat Magnus than Stockfish.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, after h4, now I think Arjun's moves are pretty clean. Like knight c2 looks very good, inviting this trade, and then दूसरा रुक भी trade हो ही जाएगा. I don't see a way for Magnus to make progress anymore. I feel like, okay, maybe जो भी बचा कुचा chance था, it is gone now. Arjun, I think, will hold this. And by the way, Abdusattorov has defeated Zhu Jiner. That match is over. They're still
That's
analyzing.
nice.
Probably would love to know what happened in that game where, on that move, but they're still analyzing. That's a very good sign.
Yeah. And of course, the blunder was a bit weird, like not expected from Zhu Jiner. But of course, I think sometimes it just happens to you. We've seen worse. So एक रिजल्ट आ गया, दूसरा आने वाला है, बट बाकी दोनों गेम्स डेड इक्वल राइट नाउ. h4 के बाद मैग्नस गेम बाद आर्बिटर सेइंग कि भाई बाकी लोग खेल रहे हैं, आप ये बाद में कहीं और करो जाके एनालिसिस.
वो भी arbiter भी खुश हो रहा होगा भाई. Like it's nice. I mean, imagine being an arbiter in an event where Magnus is playing. But that's, I mean, there must be someone there जिनका ये पहली बार they're trying to be an arbiter, and that arbiter is gonna have the tournament of their lives. Yeah, come on. Like in
भाई
your first gig, you're looking at Magnus. Yeah, that's crazy.
it's also a lot of pressure, right? Because
Yeah,
मुझे
of
याद है,
course.
like एक बार chat, I don't know if you've seen this clip. एक बार I think it was FIDE World Rapid Team and Blitz, I think from 2024 or 5, 2024 I think. मैग्नस की बॉटल पड़ी थी टेबल के ऊपर एंड आर्बिटर कम्स एंड वो बॉटल उठा के उसको नीचे रख देते हैं. भाई मैग्नस का रिएक्शन वाज इनसेन. लाइक इफ यू वर द आर्बिटर उस टाइम पे यू फील अ लॉट ऑफ प्रेशर यार. मतलब भाई मैंने कुछ गलत तो नहीं कर
Hmm.
दिया, बिकॉज मैग्नस इज लाइक genuinely irritated at you. So I think it's not an easy job, especially against when you're kind of doing it in an event when Magnus is playing and so on.
For sure, for sure. But now Arjun is thinking
I'll check.
33 minutes. Yeah, Tikku bhai, maybe you can let us know about the super chat.
Yep.
Thank you,
By the
Samay
way,
bhai.
super chat on the Chess.com India channel. Goku ji कह रहे हैं, guys, Goku wisdom. Wow, दोनों words crazy. I love chess. Magnus are Indian players. This troubles me. Does Magnus skipping the World Championship reduce its relevance and leave the next generation confused? It may even have impacted Mukesh too. What's your take? I think Magnus dominated chess so much. At some point, he felt there was no competitor. Like if Firouzja, for example, had won the candidates in 2022, I think, right, or three. I don't know when it was, but like maybe he would have potentially played
24th.
24th, yeah. No, 24 Gukesh won.
हाँ भाई,
Which
Firouzja was
when
playing.
Nepo won. No, 21 था शायद maybe. I don't know which one it was.
Okay, you mean before. That was 22, yeah.
So I think Magnus skipping is his decision. Now, does it affect the other generation? For sure. Like being the world champion, even though you're not the strongest player, forces you into this compulsion to prove that you are the world champion and puts this additional pressure on your shoulders. And that's why I think we see every world champion struggle, chahe wo Ding ho ya Gukesh ho. But also, like, it's on you, kind of, because if Magnus was playing and he is much stronger than you would likely not get this opportunity of becoming the world champion. So you are world champion. It's on you to kind of rise up to the occasion, right? So I think it's extra pressure for sure, but it's also an opportunity. So I think trade-off as such. What is your thought process there?
I'm not really sure I understand the question. Like, does he mean that if once Magnus has retired, it has made like there is some ambiguity in the chess world? Is that what he means?
No, it's like, matlab, it reduces the relevance, of course, of the world championship. Also, like leaves the next generation confused. Like, matlab, for example, just say if somebody's watching
I
chess,
mean,
it's
but
like,
it has
okay,
happened before in chess, right? When
ah,
Kasparov left, I believe in 1990 something, 95, 96 or something like this. Also, he left. No,
yeah,
95 में तो world champion नहीं बना था. But I mean Kasparov also when he formed that PCA with every. I mean it has happened in the past where the top player has left and then उसके बाद एक वो period रहता है जहाँ पे एक कोई surety नहीं है. हम like we don't know who is the best player. And then suddenly एक player आता है who takes up the mantle again. And in the past that player was Magnus Carlsen. Now maybe that player is already playing chess. We just don't know it. Maybe it's Erdogmus. You never know. Maybe it's Gukesh. Maybe it's Prag. Maybe it's Arjun. It could be anyone in this sense. But yes, that place is left. But yeah, but Magnus, को retire करना पड़ेगा उसके लिए. I think जब तक वो खेल रहा है तब तक it's not easy to take up that space.
Also, I think on the front of the value reducing, I mean, थोड़ा बहुत फर्क तो पड़ेगा if Magnus is not playing. But also, like, I think chess is also
भाई
evolving, right?
kasparov
I
भी
think
अगर
classic.
kasparov
हाँ
2003 में रिटायर ना करता टिक्कू भाई, सॉरी टू कट यू
हाँ
ऑफ, बट kasparov
हाँ.
ना करता, डू यू थिंक मैग्नस का राइज ऐसे रहता? लाइक थोड़ा तो हिंडर होता ना भाई. तो मैग्नस
For
2005-6
sure.
जब kasparov की तब भी जब वो 28 होता तो मैग्नस बार बार खेलता, उससे वो बार बार मतलब kasparov कीप्स पुटिंग प्रेशर. आई मीन मे बी दैट ऑल्सो अफेक्ट्स हिम, या सो.
Also, he doesn't coach Magnus if he's still playing. That is for sure. So I think
बट
that could
कोचिंग
directly
तो एक
affect
दो
him.
सेशन ही हुए थे ना उनके, इट वाजंट
नहीं,
लाइक
they had a few years of coaching, no? Sahej
no
bhai,
no
like
no few
11.
years, no भाई, not few
हाँ,
years.
11 to 13 they were working, Sahej bhai. 2-3 साल की coaching हुई
I
थी उनकी.
But okay, like it wasn't a lot of camps. I think I mean, at least
हाँ.
from what I read, it was not like anything crazy.
But yeah, and
But yeah,
also I
you're so
think
you're right in saying he wouldn't work with him necessarily as well.
हाँ.
So
And वैसे भी chess is evolving. I feel like it's turning online. It's turning faster. I think classical chess का significance and the number of classical events that top players play in general is going slightly down. So that automatically means that the classical world championship loses maybe some relevance for me at least. But of course, like in terms of history and the importance it holds, like there's a reason why Ukesh cried when he became the world champion, right? There's a reason why you've not seen him cry by winning other events, because it is still, even though the significance might reduce a bit, it's still the coveted tournament, the most important tournament in the world. Like everybody would love to win. Like if you ask me, मुझे कौन सा tournament, एक tournament आपको जीतना है दुनिया में as a chess player, हर कोई उसी का नाम लेगा still.
Yeah, 100%. Someone's also superchatted. Madhur Kumarji, thanks for the superchat again. Did Hikaru becoming WC dream is now over for him and you mean Hikaru's dream of becoming world champion is over for him and Fabi? I I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they could still try, but for Hikaru maybe a bit more than for Fabi, because Hikaru is, I'm not sure, because to be candidates fit, like you have to also have to play a lot of chess, and Hikaru already is so successful in his other, ventures, that I'm not so sure if he will come back. But Fabi for sure, I think, is gonna be back, because I think that is the one thing that he really, really deep, like very deeply cares about, and I think he will try, he'll try again.
And also, I think you can kind of figure out कि कितने chance of candidates by the number of ways people qualify into the candidates. Fabi, I think, the last candidates were qualified via 3 paths, and this candidates also, he was the first one to qualify. So I think Fabi is still in it, absolutely. Hikaru, I think, might take that practical call कि, it's just too much effort for something in my life journey, so it might be tougher for him. I absolutely agree, I think, with the same thought process. By the way, in the game, we have a bunch of stuff that happened. So h4 knight c2 was played, by the way. Best move. Rook takes c8. Of course, you don't want to give the e file away. So rook takes c8. Rook c1 attacking the knight. And apparently, like 93 is a very good move just played by Arjun, and it's very, very close to equal now. In fact, there's a bunch of repetitions.
No,
Like
why it's
knight
a dead
f5.
draw. It's a dead draw.
Yeah.
I feel like they will just agree to a draw very soon. I feel okay, Magnus. It's possible Magnus missed something somewhere, and now it's like dead equal. वो a6 से ही समझ आ गया था भाई, position मतलब कुछ गलत हो
Wow.
रहा है यहाँ पे.
Wow, that would be a good hold by Arjun. I think at one point it looked like it could be troublesome, but at the end, great defense. Also, Magnus got time, be 18 minutes remaining on the clock, so it doesn't signal enough flexibility in terms of just having a one long deep thing. So what do you do? In fact, c4 pawn is hanging, by the way. So you have to be careful.
And also knight e2 is a blunder, bhai, because there's knight takes g2. Hello.
Oof. Oof.
That looks like the most logical place to put the knight. And if I go knight d1 or something, I'm just curious. कुछ knight d5 वगैरह तो नहीं हो रहा. That's too much, yeah, maybe.
Oof,
Yeah,
knight
knight d5 is too
d1.
much. It's +2. Yeah, it's too much.
I
I was
was
thinking, okay, I
thinking,
have 2 pawns. You have 2 knights. I mean, okay, maybe I can play.
अगर उल्टा होता
ये
maybe then yes, maybe your
और ये
pawns are
pawn भी
too.
थोड़े close ही लग रहे हैं नहीं?
True.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
let me ask you a question, टिक्कू भाई. आपका
हाँ,
मैच है 1700 के बच्चे के साथ, ठीक है? आप मैच जीत, अगर ये गेम जीत जाते हो तो आप टूर्नामेंट जीत रहे हो, ठीक है?
हाँ.
Do you take knight d5 here, yes or no?
No, I won't take by.
You are joking me. Of course you will.
By, no, I won't take 1d5. I feel
No,
like,
भाई ड्रॉ पे कुछ नहीं मिल रहा आपको, टॉप 3 पे भी नहीं आ रहे आप.
but I won't take because I
रिस्क तो
think
लोगे ना भाई.
I'm not
By the
sure
way, played
actually.
knight d1 played.
Wow. I also thought knight a4 खेल सकते हैं just to again put that pressure on b7, but simply king c7 and it's not enough. So knight d1, practical move. And now you can take, but apparently the best move is just knight f5 again. Like that's your most active piece. Let's not trade it, yeah?
Basically, like this side is completely dead. There is nothing to do here. And black queen king side पे आप knight f5 खेल के king ऊपर नीचे करते रहो. कुछ plan ही नहीं है white के पास. I think this is a dead. I mean, if I played knight f5 here, you have to play g3. You can never play g4 because ये pawn मरता रहेगा. And like, okay, king c7. Like, if you cannot, there's nothing you can touch on the queen side, nothing you can touch on the king side. H pawn blocked है, f pawn touch नहीं कर सकते. g4 पे knight h4 मर जाएगा. Then there is no improvement left anymore. So this is, I guess, where they agreed to a draw. I predict this game is going to finish in the next 10 minutes.
Yep, agreed. And I think Magnus will have to take a call. I think knight d1 maybe is what he's hoping for because knight on f6 is still not the best piece on the board. Even that feels equal. But knight f5, just keeping that knight, active knight, should be a comfortable hold. No issues there. So Sahaj bhai, I mean, if Arjun can draw this, I think would be a very good start. Magnus Carlsen se black se draw karna without any serious trouble. Although he had a couple of questionable decisions. जो आई थिंक मैग्नस के अगेंस्ट ही वो खेलेंगे, सो दोबारा रिपीट तो नहीं होगा वो बिशप h6 एंड आल्सो लाइक दैट प्लान, सो आई थिंक शुड बी ओके c5 वाला.
राइट, बट लेट्स सी. नाइट C4 बाय द वे अभी भी पॉसिबल है. Or knight D5, but yeah, I think he will take on D1, and I think they will just shake hands and go home soon. I think right now he's thinking knight D1 because he knows Magnus है ना, तो knight D1, पहले के टाइम्स में यहाँ पे प्लेयर्स knight D1 या knight फटाफट खेलते और 10-5 अब तक गेम ड्रॉ भी हो चुका होता. बट
हाँ.
अर्जुन को पता है कि मैग्नस है कि फर्क पड़ेगा अगर आप नाइट मारते हो नहीं मारते हो, बिकॉज एंड में जाके मतलब 4 घंटे बाद आपको समझ
ओ
आएगा कि यार नाइट मार देना चाहिए था शायद, या नहीं मारना चाहिए. दैट्स अ गुड मूव बाय द वे, द बेस्ट
भाई,
मूव.
nice decision. Knight f5 and g3 only move for Magnus Carlsen. Of course, he'll play it, but to see an only move for Carlsen on the board, भाई कलेजे को ठंडक पड़ रही है सहज भाई. Like it's so
भाई
nice.
दूसरी बार हुआ
Carlsen
ये,
का एक ही चाल है. एक ही
सेकेंड
चाल
टाइम
क्या
भाई.
भाई.
Look at this. Second time it happened. The first time was here. After knight C2,
Oh
only rook
wow.
E8 from the blue arrow. And second time is right now.
Can we go full screen भाई? Because I think ऐसे मोमेंट्स में देखने में मजा आता है भाई. कार्लसन के पास इकलौती चाल. एंड सहज भाई क्या मैं मेरा ऑप्टिमिस्टिक मन ऐसे ही उछल रहा है फॉर नो रीजन, और इज देयर होप कि कार्लसन डजंट फाइंड g3? इज देयर अ चांस?
Bhai, come on, bhai. No, bhai. No chance. H4 is hanging, no? Knight H4. H4 is hanging. So there is no way that he defends the pawn.
वाओ. भाई देखते हैं. ओके चैट, व्हाट डू यू थिंक? डू यू थिंक कार्लसन विल मेक अ मिस्टेक, यस और नो? आई थिंक नो ऑफ कोर्स, बट इज देयर समबडी? ओ भाई, सवाल पूछने से पहले ही जीतनी खेल दिया यार.
भाई क्या बात कर रहे हो भाई, मैग्नस है क्या, जीती थोड़ी ना मिस करेगा भाई, वो क्या बात कर रहे हो, नो चांस. But I think now Arjun just moves the king somewhere up and down and that's it.
वाओ.
समय भाई एक बार जूम देख लेना.
हाँ मैंने वो मैसेज किया व्हाट्सएप पे भी, वो चेक कर लेना ताकि
Okay.
सबका मिल जाए. बट ओके, या गोना बी इंटरेस्टिंग चैट. विल विल Magnus Carlsen find a way to push? By the way, what do you think is Arjun's next move? Being honest, I would just pass. I'm good. Don't need to move anything. I like my pieces where they are. Like this is pass. Like I would just pass as black.
I mean, yeah, king C7, king D8, king C8 or something is fine. Rook E7 is fine. मूव नहीं है भाई किसी के पास भी. आई मीन अब कोई जीतने के लिए, आई मीन चैट विल बी हैप्पी टू हियर दिस, बट आई थिंक एनीवन हु इज प्लेइंग फॉर अ विन हियर इज अर्जुन. इट्स नॉट
Yes.
मैग्नस एनीमोर आई थिंक.
Agreed. Agreed. Because
नहीं, मैं मैग्नस थोड़ा इनकंसिस्टेंट लग रहा है आई थिंक पहले से. लाइक ऐसे पोजीशंस में आई थिंक देयर इज नो चांस कि समवन लाइक मैग्नस डजंट पुट प्रेशर आफ्टर 2 hours. देयर इज नो चांस. लाइक
yeah, and also, for example, I was trying to see if I figure out a way to get to the rook to the e file. There is no way by, because rook c2, rook e2, I can just take, and the g3 pawn is hanging now. So white somehow has too many, loose pieces here. G3 pawn hanging, d4 square weak, c4 pawn weak, right? If I get the knight to e3 again. So I feel like the only thing giving him equality is the space and the potential of those pawns, and that's why it's equal. Arjun, you can see from his body language also, yeah, he looks a bit as a confident now, sitting up straight, bent forward.
I think now he's relaxed maybe. Okay, first round you also want to get back into the, let's say, the frame of the tournament, get back. You need to be, I mean, you could be a bit rusty as well because आपने एक साल से classical chess नहीं खेला है, तो from Magnus's side I think it feels like maybe that could just be it. जो Magnus को next खेलेगा भाई, वो next कौन खेल रहा है उसको? Next is Nils, yeah? And Arjun plays against? Oh, bhai! Do you know who
Erdogmus
Arjun plays
भाई,
tomorrow?
and भाई दोनों के साथ black है भाई के,
भाई
मतलब that's kind of, I think, unfair, like not unfair, like unlucky pairing, yeah, for Arjun की दोनों के साथ black है पहले दो round.
yeah, but it's fine. It's fine. But last time actually Yagiz defeated Arjun, yeah? In that Tata Steel. तो अर्जुन वही इसी साल हुआ था वो, तो अर्जुन विल बी लुकिंग टू टेक दैट रिवेंज अगेंस्ट द टर्किश यंगस्टर. मजा आएगा भाई उस मैच में बहुत.
Chat, do not miss tomorrow's game at any cost, because we could be seeing this youngster in action, जो आज तक के youngest ever 2700 rated player, the youngest ever in history to touch the rating of 2700, ahead of Magnus, ahead of like Gukesh, ahead of everybody. Even Mishra तो satisfy नहीं है. Like crazy man, like what a talent. And he almost defeated Gukesh. Like, yaad hai, Gukesh had that moment jahan
Hmm.
pe Erdogmus was winning. He did defeat
I
Arjun.
mean,
And
Gukesh
plucky sab
was
kya hua
winning
tha?
throughout. I mean, Gukesh was pressing throughout. Gukesh ने एक blunder किया
हाँ,
था, which Yagiz did. Like I
हाँ.
feel like Yagiz was playing for a win against Gukesh like ever. Like I feel like
True,
it was
true.
Gukesh who was pressing.
And plucky sab kya hua tha Erdogmus ka? I think it was a draw, kya? I
Draw
think
हुआ
it
था, I
was a
think.
draw. I think it was a draw.
I think draw था.
So, like, you had a good result, yeah? I mean, overall 1.5 against the top three
Bhai,
Indians.
Peter Lecco said this that people are talking about 2700 ratings and this and that, ke bhai, youngest 2700 and all of that. And he said like that all of that does not matter at all. What matters is that a 14-year-old is able to have a +1 score or a plus score in a Tata Steel event.
Hmm.
Because that is something we have never seen before. Like a 14 साल का बच्चा एक प्लस स्कोर एज इन चैट, अगर आपके 14 गेम्स हैं तो आपके 7 पॉइंट से ज़्यादा है, एज इन आपका ओवरऑल स्कोर 50% से ज़्यादा है, दैट इज़ अ प्लस स्कोर. If you can do that against the best of the best in the world at the age of 14, that makes you the scariest chess player in the world.
Hmm. Regardless, I think बहुत मजा आया कल के मैच में सहज भाई. And I think knowing Arjun, like knowing his preparation, it's not gonna be a game जहाँ पे he's gonna make drawish decisions, exchanging pieces. He's gonna go for the kill because he is technically still the stronger player. And if he wins tomorrow, he enters the world top 8 again. So huge stakes there as well. And Dogmas के लिए भी, it's gonna be a crazy game. What happens today might dictate his confidence tomorrow. And by the way, he's already drawn. We already have the second result of the day, and it is a draw between Jorden van Foreest and Erdogmus.
Oh, amazing. There it is. So basically, oh bhai, so after bishop e3, Jordan offered a draw to Yagiz and इसीलिए वो सोच रहा था 1 घंटे से.
नहीं नहीं भाई, we
That's
have
what
moves, we
happened.
have moves, we have moves, we
Do
have moves
we?
भाई. We
Ah,
have
okay,
lot
okay,
of moves
okay.
भाई.
I was thinking ऐसा कैसे possible? I don't think we looked at
Uh,
any of this. Okay, okay. Repetition. Sorry, chat, my bad on that. But I don't think we saw all of this, yeah? It
yeah,
was
we didn't, but I think
looked
it
like a
came very
pretty
quickly.
simple, solid draw, but yeah.
Yeah. So, and I want to point out 98.9 accuracy by Jordan and 99.2 by Erdogmus. So clearly all close to a flawless game by the youngster. And it's going to be exciting to see him play Arjun tomorrow. And just two game pending hai. One is Andy Woodward against Nils Grandelius. Just a 10-second look at that game. Sahej bhai, feels like Wild is just completely winning. At some point, I'm going to go F4. आपको मारना पड़ेगा, and then the past H pawn is gonna win me the game, and this should be elementary for a player like Andy Woodward.
Yeah, correct. The world puzzle battle champion, if I'm not mistaken, Tikubai. And
Yeah,
also, of
yeah.
course, lots of other accolades as well. Tata Steel, he has won as well now. Because he's gonna be playing in the Masters section next year. So Andy Woodward, I think, is gonna be the next big name from the US. And then we have, of course, Magnus versus Arjun remaining. दो ही गेम remaining है, I think. ये मैच तो ड्रॉ ही लग रहा है, but अर्जुन सोच रहा है because he's thinking कि भाई वेट करेंगे तो like, can Arjun try to play for a win? Is what he's thinking.
I think he's making that assessment. Is there risk for me in this position, right? I think that's a good choice because risk hai, then maybe ishq hai, but like in game mein struggle kar sakte hain Sahaj bhai. So I think he might even just take the safe call because we're not used to Magnus seeing classical. But the King D8, that's literally a draw offer. I feel no, that's like a nothing move. I feel.
This is insane. I think looking D8 is like, okay, I know कि मेरे पास कुछ नहीं है यहाँ पे, but let's take a draw and let's go home. So what do you do? Knight C3 or what do you do? I mean, probably you're looking for some kind of a repetition here, yeah?
Yeah, I think you're hoping for something like, I don't know. Um, I really don't want to play knight c3 because again, I have to calculate these lines with knight e3 and so on. So what does white do to repeat? Like rook c2 maybe? Just repeat
ठीक
rook
है,
c2
पास
king.
कर दिया King D7 वापस.
King's rook c1 and you go for the draw, yeah? Because how does Magnus even push here? I'm not really
You
sure.
cannot. You just take a draw and you just go. भाई कुछ 30 मूव का रूल है. Actually 30 मूव्स हो गई हैं यहाँ पे वैसे भी, but draw ऑफर कर सकते हैं ना 30 साल के बाद.
I'm not sure, I think. I didn't check this specifically, but I think even if they
But कुछ
have to draw,
कुछ opens में like कोई रूल नहीं होता, कुछ opens में
हाँ,
30 मूव का रूल होता है, कुछ open
इसमें होगा.
yeah.
इसमें होगा because top level
होगा
इसमें
या
होगा, but I think maybe it's like Magnus, if he wants to repeat, he might not offer a draw. Yeah, he will just play rook c2 or something else and just offer automatically. Players are going to repeat because he understands king d8 is not really a move you play when you are pushing. I think it's just a pass move.
No, this could be a very interesting question to ask Magnus, that when was the last time someone offered him a draw? Because the reputation that Magnus has of not taking draws and continuing to push for like 7-8 hours for like, each game. I'm sure एक point के बाद like players ने draw पूछना ही बंद कर दिया होगा ना कि क्या मतलब point ही क्या है?
एक स्टोरी मुझे याद है, एक वीडियो देखी थी मैंने टाटा स्टील इंडिया की, जहां पे अनीश पूछते हैं मैग्नस को ड्रॉ एंड कार्लसन कहते हैं वो मुझे वो बियर बैस की याद आ गई भाई फॉर सम रीजन, एंड देन ही जस्ट plays like a long game even in blitz or rapid or whatever it was, and I think he even won that game, but regardless, like never will he accept a draw. And in fact at his peak, like मुझे वो गेम कभी नहीं भूल सकता, वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप मैच against Vishy sir. Vishy repeats the position once. Of course, he might not have repeated it twice, but Magnus needs a draw to clinch his first world championship match. And he says no because he had the white pieces and had the slightly better position. He says no. ड्रॉ पे उसको वर्ल्ड चैंपियन बनने का मौका मिल रहा है, बट वो कहते हैं नहीं भाई, गेम ड्रॉ नहीं है, आई फील आई एम बेटर, आई एम गोना पुश, एंड वो गेम ड्रॉ हुई बाद में, लेकिन किंग तक खेले हो भाई, किंग तक।
Aura है ना भाई, aura is too big. By the way, I think we have a move. No, we actually don't have a move. I feel like here if Arjun offers a draw, he would take it though.
बट अर्जुन नहीं करेगा यार, अर्जुन आई थिंक knows कि it's and also of course I think Arjun will gain 1 point out of this. That's the advantage of drawing against Magnus की draw पे भी एक rating point मिलता है भाई।
Sahaj, why does it feel like India isn't producing prodigies like Nihal, Prag, Gukesh anymore, even though the chess scene is... They are producing it, for sure. I mean, chat, if you go on the जो FIDE की जो rating list होती है ना, you can go there and you can check for yourself. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of names. It's just that India से इतने सारे players हैं कि I think even if you are like the best of the best, it's very hard for them to know. I mean, I remember like जब मेरी 2500 rating थी ना, जब मैं 15 साल का था, something like this. So at the time I was like top 5 in the list or whatever. तो चेसबेस का जो वो था ना, जो फाउंडर, he actually pulled me aside and he was like, who are you? He's like, how do I not know you? I was like, because India में ऐसा ही होता है भाई, it's difficult, because the talent is so much, it can, a lot, not everyone gets the limelight that they deserve in this sense.
Yeah,
Like you can see 2010 born Ajay Santosh Parvata Reddy. So he's 15 years old and he's almost a GM, 2500 player. That's a very, very big name.
I
2011, Ethan Vaz is there, 2011.
I can give an example. For example, like Edis Gurel, let's say he's 2650 at that age. If he was in India, for example, like he got strong invites, right? He got very, very strong invites, played well at the Grand Swiss as well. If he was in India, he would be India number 7, 8, I don't know. So the chances कि लोग उसको invite करेंगे is very low in any top event, because India में किसी को invite करो तो you have Gukesh, you have Arjun Parag and so on. So if you're in some country जहाँ पे you are the best player, you might still get some invites. At least, for example, जैसे क्रोएशिया में tournament होता है तो Ivan Saric always plays GCT Croatia, right? He gets that opportunity every year because he's the strongest player there. So I feel like वो opportunity miss हो जाती है कई बार, and it's also tougher. You have idols to look up to, and you have that ecosystem in your country जहाँ पे somebody's done it before, so it's easier for you. But also you sometimes don't get those opportunities which you might have if you're in some other country. So I think आएंगे वो लोग. We see Pranesh rising up the ranks. We do see like many players around the 2600 mark. But yeah.
I'm just looking at the top 100 list, and 100th player is 2400, by the way. And did you know this? India made the 100th player is 2400. And that is ridiculous.
Not a surprise, actually.
How is,
not
bhai,
even a
in most countries like 2400 would be like top 20, top 30, something like this. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this list and I'm seeing a bunch of names who are 2010. Gautam Krishna is 2433, for example. That's a name we've been saying a lot. Jake Shanti is another one, 2011 born. The key is look for players who are 2010 and later, and then whoever is above 2400. Those are the talents you need to watch, because yes, true, they are not 2600 yet, but वो generation अभी Pranesh की है. Like Pranesh is gonna dominate. Like अभी निहाल कर रहा है, फिर Pranesh करेगा, फिर उसके बाद I don't think we are really that far off when it comes to having a young talent.
Agreed. And by the chat, knight c3 after a 3.5 minute think played by Magnus Carlsen. So rook e1 could be on the cards here. Sej, are we gonna allow rook e1, or do we have a way of avoiding it? Like, does it change the position anyway? Agar rook straight हो जाए तो?
Draw मतलब yeah, no, in the sense that अभी भी draw है तब भी draw थी.
Hmm.
So not really. I don't think so. At least king d7 would just be very logical to me. But okay, I'm guessing.
Like rook e3, for example. Like, I just avoid rook e1. Uh, I don't even want to do
I mean,
see
I'm
that.
sure you can play it, but it's like players are just moving pieces. Yeah, not really. You are attacking the knight. I defend the knight. Okay, then what? Then maybe you
I
play king d7 and white फिर से सोचेगा and rook d2, king d. I mean, not really
Sej,
much to do.
forget the position. एक से के लिए सिर्फ प्लेयर्स को देखो. Go full screen. Look at the players. लग रहा है कोई 27 मूव का क्वीन सैक्रिफाइस सोच रहा है मैग्नस अभी.
भाई मतलब
सही बता
देख तो
रहा.
ऐसे रहे जैसे कि पूरी चेस सॉल्व हो रही है. Like literally
सही
nothing
में
is happening.
भाई कुछ तो सोच रहा होगा मैग्नस यार. लाइक इतना डेप्थ में सर पकड़ के बैठा है. लाइक इट्स लाइक ही इज प्लानिंग अ क्वीन सैक्रिफाइस जो क्वीन बोर्ड पे है भी नहीं. Very interesting moment. What's your thoughts on the Soul announcement? What's the announcement? I think Pranesh they had got in their team. Is that the announcement you're talking about? Because बहुत सारे announcements है. I also saw like Godlike ने उसको hands को ले लिया अपनी उसमें. So बहुत सारे announcements चल रहे हैं चाहे TWC के लिए. And Nukesh
Yeah.
ने brought 2600 soon. कह रहे हैं मिस्टर महाजी. अरे भाई यार कैसी बातें करते हैं यार. मुकेश अभी देखो क्या राइज करेगा मस्त. वर्ल्ड चैंपियनशिप के टाइम पे रेडी होगा भाई वो
ये सही है.
सुंदर.
वो कह रहे 26 वो क्लासिकल खेल ही नहीं रहे लोग.
Quick review for the games. By the way, 2 games have ended as we discussed, and the तीसरी game है वो already is completely winning for one guy. So 4 ही game है chat, and this is the one which is still kind of on. I would say कि technically not on, but Magnus. By the way, Magnus पानी लेके आया है भाई. I mean, not the sign of somebody who's about to take a draw, Sahaj bhai. This is psychological pressure.
Or maybe he's just thirsty. Like
But पी
here,
नहीं रहा है.
I will be on your side, Tiku bhai. You know this, but okay, not here. Yeah, come on.
भाई but पी नहीं रहा है. He got
अरे
the
भाई,
glass,
come on.
kept it on the table, bhai.
If this works out, I will be shocked, भाई. ये तो मैं ये भी नहीं बोलूंगा कि आई मान जाऊंगा गोट भाई. मतलब आई वो तो मैं ऑलरेडी मान चुका हूँ, बट लेकिन नॉट दिस भाई. दिस इज टू मच.
I have said this a couple of times before, but मुझे अब तक वो गेम याद है. Carlsen against Jabov. I think Daniel King was commentating. I was watching some commentary. I don't remember कहाँ पे देख रहा था मैं. And he was saying, I think he and Maurice actually, also, I don't know, somebody else with Daniel King. They were saying, क्यों खेल रहा है यार Carlsen यार? There is no way Rajabov can lose this. Like not in a million years. Like even one commentator said कि this is insulting towards the other player. Like भाई वो बंदा खेल रहा है. Like Carlsen is still playing. I was like क्या चल रहा है भाई? सुबह कॉलेज जाना है सोता हूँ. मैं सो गया. सुबह उठा Magnus won. I was like, that's the day I woke up to the Magnus magic. समझ लो, like that's the first time I realized कि भाई this guy is a bit different. So but yeah, I agree with you. I'm in the same boat. Like, would be hard to imagine Magnus winning this. But इकलौता बंदा है जिसके सामने अगर आप इस पोजीशन में बैठे हो तो एक पसीने की बूंद नेक के पीछे से जाती है सहज भाई.
बट
You feel that.
आई जस्ट से कि अगर मैग्नस ये ब्लैक से खेल रहा होता तो शायद मैं ज्यादा डर रहा होता यहाँ पे. Like chat, will you agree with me on this? Magnus with black, okay, like if you're playing this as white, you're thinking okay कुछ sack miss हो सकता है, but white से I'm not so sure. Like what can you okay, क्या कर लो? A6 में खेल दिया ना आपने, क्या अचीव कर लोगे आप?
That's a fair assessment. I think black के पास भी अपने chances है, but डर तो तब भी लगता है भाई because Magnus है. But okay, I mean let's see. पानी खत्म होता है कि glass as it is रहेगा. I just hope Arjun doesn't try to force a draw somehow. That would be the biggest trap, I think. Just keep playing what you're doing. There's nothing, as you mentioned, do nothing, yeah? The best philosophy.
Yeah, the art
Life.
of doing nothing. I'm pretty sure there's like lots of books written on this subject. It's a very, very, I think, nice and maybe one of the most important concepts to understand and yeah, to understand well.
Book क्या भाई मेरी life है भाई. The art of doing nothing, by the way. But okay, Arjun about
तो
to play.
टिक्कू भाई की लाइफ स्टडी करो, हम चेस अच्छा अपने आप खेलने लग जाओगे.
Oh, by the way, look at this. He plays knight e3. basically like offering a repetition, right? Because attacking the c4 pawn and knight d1,
शाबाश,
knight
नाइट डी
f5.
वन नो, नाइट डी वन,
हाँ,
नाइट
knight
एफ वन,
d1.
नाइट सी थ्री, भाई ड्रॉ, लो कर लिया ड्रॉ फिर.
Okay, Sahaj by chat. Does Carlsen play knight d1 and kind of say yes to the repetition? Yes or no? Come on, let's go.
I think Magnus will go. I think because it's the first round and he hasn't played classical in such a long time, I mean, I feel like he's gonna take the draw. Also, position looks extremely dead to me.
Hmm.
भाई इंडियन कमेंटेटर अच्छे से नहीं बात कर रहा भाई, वो दोनों ही इंडियन है भाई. समझा
भाई
नहीं मैं
वो
आपको
मेरी बात
कुछ.
कर रहा होगा, आई थिंक.
ये क्या इंडियन
अंडरस्टैंडेबल.
कमेंटेटर, तो दोनों को अपने सेपरेट, दोनों इंडियन है भाई. तो दोनों की बेइज्जती, ये कैसा लॉजिक हुआ भाई.
भाई पता है क्या होता है, सम पीपल आर जस्ट बॉर्न इडियट्स ब्रो. वो हम मैं तो वही हूँ. तो चेंज नहीं हो सकते भाई, वी हैव टू स्टे ट्रू
अरे
टू
अरे
मूवी
अरे
यार.
भाई भाई.
बट बाय द वे,
अरे ऋषि सर से कॉम्प्लीमेंट लेने के बाद ऐसे बातें तो मत करो भाई आप.
भाई बैलेंस भी तो करना है ना भाई थोड़ा बहुत.
हम्म.
वरना कल से हवा में उड़ लूंगा, आ जाऊंगा अपनी फिर ओपनिंग पे दिखा लूंगा भाई, वी ऑन मूव नंबर 9 वी शुड प्ले नाइट टू जीएच.
Who is
बट ओके
Magnus and why should we be afraid? भाई गूगल है आपके पास, आई थिंक सबके पास है. जरा दो शब्द डाल दो गूगल में, आपको समझ आ जाएगा.
भाई, आई फील लाइक दोनों प्लेयर्स को एक टूथब्रश गिफ्ट करो एंड लेट्स जस्ट मूव ऑन विद द गेम. ड्रॉ इज ओके, आई
या
थिंक.
फॉर श्योर. Sahaj, are you going for 2600 rating, or what will it take for you to get there? I mean, Uh, I I am not, like, let's say, actively pursuing 2600 ki rating, because then I would be, playing tournaments and working on my chess, as opposed to doing commentary or doing coaching and all of those other things. But I'll tell you ke I think 2600 is a very unrealistic goal right now, because I'm not close to it. Like, for before that, I have some smaller goals. Like, for example, I want to break my peak rating. So that's something I'm still working on. And I think when I do break the peak rating, then I can think about bigger goals like that. But right now, it's just pointless. इतना दूर है. मतलब 100 point का difference in this is gonna take like at least a couple of months of rigorous training with a coach, and then playing the right type of events, which is a lot of time and energy for any chess player.
And a lot of money also, by the way. Let's not
Exactly. I
forget
mean,
that. And
Europe में
also,
रह के, okay, I guess you're spending less because you're not
हाँ,
really traveling for
traveling.
flights, and you don't really have to worry about accommodation. In my case, because okay, you can stay at a friend's place, you can stay at an
Hmm.
Airbnb, but for from India it's very difficult because आपको वो एक वो होटल करना होता है. It's very
Agreed.
difficult. So
But yeah, I mean, Sajway did win the last tournament he played. So धीरे धीरे रखे भाई. Maybe we can get to that goal. Like,
one day, भाई.
and life में वो था slow and steady wins the race. ऐसा मैंने सुना है, बचपन में बताया गया था मुझे. So maybe that's the path forward. And the path forward from Magnus is also slow and steady, क्योंकि आराम से वो knight d1 पे रख दीजिए, because he did look at his score sheet. That's usually a sign कि player is about to take that draw वाला call. Like you look at the score sheet कि भाई okay, कितने moves हुए हैं, कितनी बार repeat हो चुकी है position. So this is the moment जहां पे knight to d1 would be Magnus saying भाई चलो draw करते हैं, घर चलते हैं. Anything else is a straight claim I want to play on. So अर्जुन को पता होगा कार्लसन के दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है एटलीस्ट.
भाई 10 मिनट हैं, पड़े हैं उसके पास. आई मीन, आई डोंट थिंक ही इज गोना गो फॉर इट. इफ ही डज, लाइक, आई मीन, आई वुड बी शॉक्ड, बिकॉज हाउ डिड ही गेट द मोटिवेशन टू प्ले दिस? या बिकॉज ही वाज जस्ट इन हॉलीडे मोड. वो जो आईपैड से टूर्नामेंट खेल रहा था वो, एंड ही जस्ट बिकेम अ फादर, जस्ट गॉट मैरिड, ऑल ऑफ दीज
Yeah.
थिंग्स, लाइक, डजेंट स्पीक लाइक ये मुझे टूर्नामेंट जीतना है, ये लाइक कुछ भी करके हर गेम मुझे जीतना है. आई मीन, या टूर्नामेंट तो जीतना ही होगा मैग्नस को, बट हर गेम जीतना है, आई एम नॉट सो श्योर.
Yeah. Is there a way white can allow knight takes c4? I don't think so. If you allow knight takes c4, I think that's just a free pawn. Um, don't see any counterplay you can create. I mean, in that meanwhile, for now at least. So I think you don't really want to give the c4 pawn, because c4 gaya, then b5, d5 become weak. And suddenly you could be in a situation जहाँ पे black has 4 connected passed pawns and आप sitting duck की तरह बैठे हो. So it's like the root of the pawn chain, right? So you don't want to give the c4 pawn away, I think. And Magnus about to take that final call. Wow. So Magnus Carlsen, first game after his first game in 2026, by the way, first classical game of the year for Magnus Carlsen. It's against Arjun, and he's likely going to hold a comfortable draw. Good news.
Yeah, very, very nice, I think. But Magnus right now deciding के कैसे खेले, but body language से लग तो नहीं रहा कि वो खेल रहा है. But okay,
हाँ.
Magnus I think is a particularly very difficult guy to read from his body language, I think.
Please tell about knight to e4. If Magnus plays knight to e4, I think
I
that
was
looks like
looking
a
at this,
mistake.
but there is takes and knight takes g3 is happening. ये knight e4 कुछ moves पहले काम कर रहा था. But आपका pawn h कभी तो कर रहा था जब rook h8 पे था, then you didn't have this discovered check. But even if without the knights, it's still equal. Even with the knights, it's still equal. Even without
Yeah.
the rooks, the only way Arjun Magnus wins this is some sacrifice, some blunder if Arjun makes in time pressure, which feels very unlikely because Magnus के पास 10 minute कम है.
Yeah. Magnus, I think time cannot be of help here. अगर clock reversed होती, maybe he could think about it. But in this situation, I mean, he's been thinking for a while though. I think 6 minutes. So maybe this is the crucial moment, chat, and a draw for Arjun would be amazing with the black pieces. Like ask anybody in the world, draw with black against Magnus, an amazing result.
Yeah, absolutely. Chat में someone's asking, why did Kasparov say the Magnus will come back if Sindarov wins the World Championship? Why does it matter? Does he think that Gukesh is not good enough to challenge even if he beats Sindarov? I'm not sure if Magnus said this.
I'm not sure if
Because
Kasparov said that actually.
I'm not
I've
sure
not
if
heard this.
Kasparov has said this. I would be shocked if Magnus comes back or Kasparov comments about that. I could be wrong. But no, to answer your question, I don't think anybody disrespects anyone. I think there is underlying respect for every world champion, which should be there, yeah, because you played the best, you beat the best, and that's the end of
Uh,
it.
And even if he did say it or something like that is ever said, I think it's dependent on Sindarov's recent performance. Like if Sindarov played like this for the next 2 years, like crushed Gukesh and kept going like this, will
Try like
Magnus
10
be
years, bhai.
tempted? Like let's say 2 years before
Magnus
now.
never
Let's
had a
let's
day off. Like, I'm
let's say
sorry,
two
there was
years
no
he
day off.
continues. Then Magnus could be tempted to say, "Ki I do want to test myself against Sindarov." That's
Oh,
still
apparently a
I
lot of
don't
people in the
think.
chat saying he said it, yeah?
Oh, interesting. But I still don't think Magnus will do it in a world championship match because the format is not something he likes, right? So he might be tempted to test himself against Sindarov and see
But
Sindarov is, as good as the people say, for example. But I don't think he'll be coming back to the world championship.
but I
Very,
mean,
very unlikely.
like just trying to connect some dots here because today just now in the first hour of commentary we had Vishy sir with us and we asked him like what does he think of things and Darov and stuff and he actually said that it reminds him of the younger him. Like Sendarov reminded him of Vishy sir when he was younger. So maybe like there is some like I don't know maybe it's the type of dynamic chess that he's playing that
Hmm.
impresses Kasparov and
Yeah,
Vishy in this sense. I mean that's a massive compliment I think to give to anyone. So that could
agreed.
be I think a reason. But I seriously doubt if Magnus is going to come back by.
Agreed. And again, if Magnus is really interested in playing Sindarov, if he were to dominate for the next year or two, I'm sure like there'll be many people who will be ready to organize that match with a bigger prize fund even than the World Championship. So I don't think अगर होना होगा तो हो जाएगा, but I don't think World Championship में because World Championship खेलने के लिए पहले साल्सन को कुछ candidates खेलना है or he has to play 40 games to qualify via the rating spot, which I don't think even exists now. So it's harder because it's not a direct match in the World Championship for him against anybody. So he's not going to play the candidates, for example. I don't think so.
नाइस पूछ रहे हैं चैट में जीएम और अंग्रेज कैसे बन गए भाई वैसे ही भाई जैसे आप अनटाइटल्ड और इंडियन बने. I'm just kidding. But yeah, we have knight e3 by repetition. ले लो भाई. Knight
भाई
d1.
5 मिनट है. I would even want Magnus to not take the repetition now to some extent. अंदर से वो लड्डू फूट रहा है कि he could make a mistake in time pressure. Like he's human after all. We saw him blunder by the way against Duda Sehaj by under time pressure, right? He blundered like अरे रुक तो कुछ आ गया था Queen takes e1
हाँ I
something like.
remember Mag. तभी तो मैं कह
So
रहा हूँ Magnus was looking very inconsistent भाई.
hmm.
Thoughts on Ding Liren playing? भाई spam मत करिए please. But thoughts on Ding Liren? I think it's a great thing that Ding is coming back. I saw the games as well. Looked very exciting chess and look like a little bit like the old Ding. So hoping that he is in a better place and he definitely deserves to be in top 10, top 5 at least even. मजा आएगा भाई. If he's back,
I
and
think,
Huey, I think hinted ke Ding could be back for Olympiad, for
yeah.
candidates, and all of those things as well.
I think he's not played much after the World Championship. So वो जब pressure उठ गया ना shoulders से, he will definitely play better than what he played earlier, 100%. So even if he has some health issues, so let's see how it goes. Sahil should bid for World Championship host in his home. बिल्कुल भाई, मेरा budget $10 का है. If Fede is interested, they can let me know. But हो सकता है घर में 2 ही लोग हैं. We can put up cameras in every corner, so possible तो है भाई. But yeah, let's see which countries happen. I think Max about to play. Let's go full screen. About to play a move, crucial move in this game. Will he go knight d1, take the repetition with less than 4 minutes on his clock now? He does repeat. Wow. भाई अर्जुन में जज्बा
Wow.
तो है भाई.
Let's go. अब अर्जुन खुद मना कर दे, take on D1.
I was literally thinking
नहीं
for
चाहिए
that.
ड्रॉ. भाई अब मारो knight takes D5. Let's go. Attack.
Okay, let's go full screen. By the way, the final moments of this game likely about to end. Uh, Position repeat हो चुकी है एक बार. Knight c3 played. Knight e3. Knight d1 would be an instant draw. Sahaj bhai, very close to a draw now.
I mean, no chance I think anyone is playing for a win, but make it. Okay, he just plays knight D3. Tablash incoming.
Yeah. इस बार तबलास तोड़ा नहीं, इधर तबलास ले लिया माग्नस कार्लसन जी ने. Knight to d1 is the move, and that would be a repetition and a draw. A good result for Arjun, who honestly was under some pressure, but आराम से उन्होंने यूटिलाइज कर लिया कार्लसन का pressure, and he should go back a happy guy at the end of this day. And
भाई अभी भी खत्म नहीं हुआ है, एक और मूव बची है अभी भी मैग्नस की.
हाँ,
Like there is one more move, knight D1, which should be a draw, and I'm guessing that's it.
why that toothbrushes, bro, it's a reminder for all of us to brush our teeth. And okay, about to play, it's gonna be a draw, but he's not claiming it. Very interesting. But is he playing on? Why he could be playing on, because he technically you stop the clock and call the arbiter, right?
भाई मैग्नस है, क्लॉक खुद ही रुकेगी भाई उसके लिए.
Possible.
अपने आप रुक जाए. आर्बिटर वेट ही कर रहा होगा भाई, कब बोल रहा है मैग्नस. नहीं मैं कर देता हूँ ड्रॉ पे.
I mean, he should take the draw. He has no time on the clock. This could be a risky proposition, yeah, for Magnus if he plays on. ये बोर्ड पे रेड मत रखो. We'll try to change the color for tomorrow, chat. आज तो अभी कुछ हिलाते नहीं. Oh! Magnus Carlsen plays on. No draw, bhai. No draw. Okay, Sahaj, bhai, that is an impressive decision.
I mean, yes, but also not really. Yeah, I think knight f5, and I still don't see a way for him to play on.
No, agreed. But still, the fact that he plays on is impressive. Just the fact that like आप एवरेस्ट चलने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, आप नहीं चढ़ पाए, बीच में सांस सबकी अटक गई, या इट वाज टफ. आपने कोशिश किया भाई. Like that itself is like crazy to me. Like he plays on.
Or maybe it's just a cycle. I mean, agar Arjun just goes knight f5 in this position, like how do you not play knight d3? That would just be a repetition again, no?
Agreed. By the way, he went knight f5. Already done.
Oh, he played it, yeah?
Yeah, he
Nice.
played. I think वीडियो थोड़ा सा कुछ 4-5 सेकंड डिले में है मूव से, तो 95 played. Now knight d3 again would be a draw for instant draw.
मतलब he's just मतलब ख्यालों के साथ खेल रहा है बेसिकली अर्जुन के. ड्रॉ दिख रही है, मतलब नजर में है, बट लेकिन वो बस बोर्ड की
You know,
तरफ देखे जा रहा है.
I want to just highlight one of the best moves that my engine is saying. That is knight to b1. Knight
Oh,
b1 और
best
b2
move
पे
in the
रख के
position.
भाई.
Breyer's idea, chat. Remember Breyer's idea, knight b1 idea. Reroute it. It's a bad piece.
Crazy भाई. And you still can't go rook e1, by the way, chat, because it's very crucial. I think that's why Magnus kind of played this move. Key, if Arjun does not play knight f5, I can potentially at some point play rook e1 because g3 pawn hanging नहीं होगा. So instantly knight f5 खेल के हमने फिर से वो g3 pawn अपनी चंगुल में रखा हुआ है. So you can't again play rook e1. So there is literally no way for Magnus to progress with the knight f5 pair.
Yeah, exactly. There is no g4. And also Magnus has only 2 minutes on the by. Oh, matlab, it looks scary, no? 5 more moves to be played. And he just cannot see a plan forward.
Yep. मिस्टर पॉल जी को 200 साल का बैन दे देते हैं पहले एक बार, तो थोड़ा मजा आता है यार.
कोशिश तो किया भाई, वो 24 घंटे से ऊपर गया नहीं हो.
Oh shit, YouTube.
देख रहा था मैं
Missed
भाई, कोई
out.
तरीका मिले
By the
तो.
way, has he, oh, he's about to play, huh? Come on. Let's see Magnus, if he's still gonna push. By the way, 2 minutes for him to play 5 moves. So he must be getting a bit nervous. I mean, he's not played classical chess for a long time. So the time pressure might hit him a bit harder than the other players. You can see him slightly the disappointed look. Yeah, I think he senses Sehwag he was better and he missed it somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. मैग्नस को अब तो ड्रॉ कर देना चाहिए भाई. 93 के बाद सीधा ड्रॉ है, राइट? थ्री फोल्ड है.
Yes, he can just stop the clock, call the arbiter, and claim a draw.
जस्ट डू इट भाई. My question, अगर मैग्नस ने 93 खेला without claiming the draw, do you
Huh.
think Arjun plays 93 and calls the arbiter and takes the draw?
Yes, yes. I
I
don't
don't
think
think so.
Arjun will.
Because I think
Really?
that's too much. I think then वो प्लेयर भी सोचेगा भाई इतना आप पहले मना भी कर रहे हो फिर अब क्लेम भी नहीं कर रहे हो आप.
No, I think Arjun just plays 93. He will not claim. He'll just play 93. He'll say ki bhai khelna khelo. Like, okay, by the way, Magnus is looking at the score sheet, I think. I think he's looking at the score sheet. That's a sign he's about to take a draw. 1 minute for Magnus, by the way, to play 5 moves. This is the time when you claim a draw, Sage bhai. This is the time when it could go wrong for Magnus.
भाई एक ही मिनट, 5 चालें और खेलनी है मैग्नस को. पता चले तो आधे घंटे का इंक्रीमेंट भी नहीं है भाई. यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल.
Bhai, draw. Take the draw, Magnus. Oh, he's still playing a move. He's not claiming a draw. Very interesting detail.
57 seconds.
Oh, he plays 93. Okay, it's technically
Oh.
repeated twice. It's
So he doesn't wait. So he does the exact same thing. And now the question is, does Arjun, because Magnus did not offer a draw just now. Of Arjun 93, if he plays now, then he can claim the draw. But then वो एक psychological disadvantage आ जाता है, नहीं? Because आपका opponent नहीं चाहता draw करना, and then you're still making a draw with them.
so.
Like
So
you understand what I
basically-
mean, right? That
basically
puts you in a
Arjun-
bad psychological space.
Agree. Basically, Arjun can stop the clock right now and claim a draw with 93. He can do it
देखो
right
घड़ी
now.
की तरफ देख, देखो स्कोर शीट की तरफ देख रहा है वो. He's checking if it's three. वो खुद भी वही सोच रहा है अर्जुन. उसको
वो
पता
सोच
देखो
रहा है-
करना तो चाहिए, बट इज्जत पे बात है अभी. वो
It's like-
3 बारी वो ड्रॉ कर सकता था, उसने नहीं किया, तो मैं क्यों करूँ अब?
सिंपल तरीका ये है कि आपने किसी को डेट पे पूछा, उन्होंने आपको सीन पे छोड़ दिया, एंड वो 2 दिन आपको बोल रहे हैं कि चलना है क्या डेट पे. नाउ यू आर लाइक, भाई तुमने 2 दिन मुझे सीन पे छोड़ा है. लाइक डू आई वांट टू रिप्लाई, आई स्टिल वांट टू गो, बट आई एम लाइक एक थोड़ी इज्जत बात आ गई साइड में. वैसी फीलिंग आ रही है मुझे.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, इज्जत पे तो बात है भाई. मतलब कर सकता है वो ड्रॉ.
भाई
He just offers a draw. भाई उसने ड्रॉ
Arjun is
पूछ ही
sweet,
लिया.
भाई.
Oh,
Arjun is sweet, तो उसने draw
उसके
कर
बोले
लिया.
बुलाना है क्या? कहता नहीं नहीं नहीं. It's fine. Nice.
चलो भाई.
Nice
Okay.
game.
Okay,
And
so
by the
he's
way,
claiming a draw. हाँ.
जितने लोग पूछ रहे हैं what kind of mental games this is, chat, this is nothing. Like I would, if you are interested in this and if you really want to do some research, and if you want, we can talk about it tomorrow as well. Like look up what happened, the amount of things that happened between the Karpov and Korchnoi match. Just Google this and look at the different incidents that happened in those matches. आपका दिमाग हिल जाएगा भाई. The people used to do these things so often.
Yeah. So interesting detail there. And of course, we see both the players kind of calculate the moves, analyze where they could have pushed. And of course, DC5 was that move. Jahan pe, Magnus pushed the pawn. He should have taken it and would have given him more opportunities. Yeah, he's talking about the C5 pawn, by the way. That's the pawn he's talking about, Sajbhai, right? I think B6 or C5. I don't know which one.
He was pointing at the pawn on c5. That was the move on move 22, I believe, where he pushed the pawn instead of capturing it. And since then, Arjun just did not give a chance. Yep, that's the moment. Pawn takes c5 had to be played. He played d5 instead, and it was just equal from there.
Yeah. Wow, what a game.
I think good start for India number one, I would say overall. I think he
Yeah.
remains India number one, of course, and he's very, very close to being top 10 in the world as well. Only one rating point away. And let's see what happens.
I think simple point to put is Nodirbek is the guy who won today's game. And, by the way, Andy Woodward is also about to win, but Arjun drew. But who do you think is happier, Nodirbek or Arjun? Like maybe Arjun is happier, yeah? Because you draw against Magnus. Like that's always has some extra, impact and extra gives you confidence also.
For sure. Yeah, I think both wins are very, very important. But देखो भाई, let's be real, इन दोनों में से खुश तो अभी कोई भी नहीं है.
True. The game wasn't really crazy exciting. But it was a game jahan pe Magnus did show some of the signs, some of the techniques, right? Just say he squeezes water out of a stone traditionally. But he just couldn't convert it. I think he had that opportunity, and maybe a Magnus who had more practice in classical chess would have played DC5. But
Yeah.
he took a decision based on intuition, and it wasn't the correct one. And they're still analyzing. But a good result for Arjun, by the way, Chad, who draws against the god of chess. And I think that's basically the end of day one, because I think one look at the Andy Woodward game, it's about to end very soon. I think
Yeah, it's
we
dead
already
winning
have,
basically.
yeah. So I think this is going to be an easy victory. So Sahaj, by all four games done, if you go back to Magnus's camera once and the game, I think if you can show that moment, jahan pe Magnus had the opportunity, that was D takes C5. I think that's where maybe he missed, and he could have really put Arjun under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it was d takes c5 and the consequent, analysis, rook on d1, rook on e1. He just had the exact same position with the pawn on d5 and d6, and so something like this in the position which only helped Arjun. अगर ये pawns ना होते तो maybe a knight d5 पे बैठ सकता था कभी, which could be very nice. But yeah, after this Arjun defended like a pro. No mistakes, no chances given anymore. 97.5 and 97.8 is the final accuracy for both players.
And Chad, this was day number one of the TePe Sigeman Tournament. I think day number two is tomorrow. Same time, we'll be live at 6:30 p.m. And tomorrow, Arjun plays Erdogmus, the best talent on paper chess has ever seen, the youngest 2700 player ever. He even defeated Arjun at the Tata Steel tournament. So revenge time, and बहुत important game है because Erdogmus के हैं white pieces. तो Arjun कुछ crazy जरूर खेलेंगे. कल पेट्रॉफ तो नहीं आने वाला साज भाई बोर्ड के ऊपर, no chance.
हाँ भाई, पेट्रॉफ तो नहीं होगा भाई. आई थिंक दोनों के दोनों कुछ ना कुछ क्रेजी डालेंगे. आई थिंक अर्जुन भी विल बी लुकिंग फॉर दैट रिवेंज, एंड यागिज ऑफ कोर्स ही नोज it's like clock is ticking. Yeah, I mean, he knows he's young, but like he has to keep performing well, and especially this is the event where he performs well because he's playing against the goat of chess, and that changes everything. So yeah, it's going to be a fun match.
Abhimanyu is the youngest GM, I think, but youngest
Yeah.
27 ever is actually Erdogmus. And yep, Arjun did gain 1.2 points out of this. So 275, 2.2. That's nice to see. Another win tomorrow would push him to world number 8, world number 7 even, or 6 even actually, depends. Let's see. So Chad, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Sahil bhai, for the amazing commentary. Maza aaya as usual. And thanks a lot for the flawless broadcast, Sami bhai. We'll see you tomorrow, Chat. Thanks a lot for joining. Kal aayega maza. Day number 2. Arjun will be back. Carlsen will be back. Dogs will be back. See you then. Bye-bye. Take care. Good night.